Hey everybody, this is the 2022 card set SOMIFA draft review show. So we're going to take a look at the draft that we just finished a couple hours ago, and I'm joined by Michael Reed and Nathan Baylor. Say hi, guys.
Hey guys.
And Tom might join us as well later on. So I will keep an eye open on the draft room for that. I emailed him the link. Tim is not going to be able to join us, but we'll just play it by ear, kind of go through the picks and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what surprised us. So I think we got to start off the draft by talking about that first overall pick. We did the mock draft last night, and we had Sauce maybe going there, and then he needed a quarterback, made that big trade, so we said, okay, he's obviously going to be taking Pickett. But then at the end, we said, well, maybe he's taking Purdy because he's a Niners fan. So what did you guys think of Purdy going number one overall?
I wasn't shocked. I thought he might because he's the Frisco fan. And then right during the draft, I saw a stat said something like the Niners were scoring like 33 or 34 points a game with Purdy in. So I was like, oh, well, maybe Ed is onto something there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a small sample size. But he did good when he played, right?
Right.
But he was the last pick in the draft. So what do you think, Michael?
Pedigree doesn't matter. I think he saw enough of a sample size to feel confident with him. And also, too, that San Francisco team, just top to bottom, is great. And, yeah, maybe he might be a system quarterback. But everything San Francisco does, they do right. And they've got weapons all over the place. So there's nothing to say that he can't replicate it.
That's actually a really good point about his good team, too, because Purdy's definitely a better fit for the year. And if he's a Frisco fan, I mean, everything makes sense there.
Yeah. Any concerns at all about the injury? There was thought that maybe he wouldn't be able to begin the year. It looks like he's going to. But is he playing like at 80%, 90%?
I've heard he might have a hard time with like the long ball in particular, as far as like almost at the field, not quite knowing how hard to throw it. But I mean, it's not just a short-term pick; it's definitely a long-term pick. So I think if you liked him, then that surgery shouldn't be too scary.
Yep.
And then the second pick of the round, I think we nailed that one.
We got that right.
One of 3 correct picks for us in 48 selections.
I couldn't be more proud.
It really, when he took, when Sauce didn't go number 3, then all hell broke loose. I was like, what's going on?
That was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all, you could definitely see it. That none of them they all make sense too. They're all good picks. I mean, now Arizona's got Trayvon Walker and Micah Parsons at outside linebacker. I mean, no one has anything like that.
Yeah, and he obviously, I mean, it's possible that he thought, well, Sauce won't even be there. You get your mind made up on who you're going to take, and then when somebody falls, you're like really not prepared to shift your plan. So maybe that was part of it.
I mean, I think I don't know. I'm always looking to trade. Like if you're not in those scenarios, but then again, it's also really hard to trade on the clock. That's why I did so much this year ahead of time, trying to lay plans for trades, just make it ahead of time. Because things like that, you really don't have the time to, no one else is thinking it's going to happen a lot of times either.
Right. I feel so bad for the people that are like running this, like have to like. Ed can't really make hardly any moves at all because he's so busy managing this, and you've got timekeepers and people writing down all these draft picks. That's rough for them too.
Speaking of timekeepers, TJ, what a fantastic job just keeping things moving.
Very kind.
I thought he did a great job.
Sure did.
And he wants to have the choice to nominate someone else to be the timekeeper. I don't know, man. TJ, you did so good. You might maybe we just pay you to do it because it was nice. We're wrapping up the 10th round at around 11:30 or something like that. That was crazy.
It's a good draft. People were ready.
Yeah,
their picks. I mean, I would take time. I had a lot of picks, and lots of times I'd stop and sort of try to sort out. Okay, if I like 2 or 3 guys, what are the chances of my next pick, getting them? So a really interesting draft.
Okay, so Niners get their quarterback at 1. Nick takes one of his guys at 2.
And that's a great fit for his team.
Yeah.
Really big hole, and it's a guy from his favorite team, I'm pretty sure, and they look really good in the NFL. So that's actually probably pretty exciting to be able to draft him.
And then Arizona gets Walker, like you said, to pair him with
Parsons.
So he's got 2 strong outside linebackers. And then an interesting dilemma for Cincy, the team taking over for Jay. He had Derek Carr, but when he saw Pickett drop, he obviously switched his plan up a little bit, or maybe he had him targeted the whole time. But what did you think about, obviously Sauce falling is a big story, falling to 5. But do you think he would have been a good fit with the Bengals at 4?
Keep Cincinnati's roster up there for just a second, if you don't care.
Yeah, let me zoom into. Go ahead.
Is that
He's doing a rebuild. I mean, he's got Carr. I don't have a problem with the pick. I've told you though before, like for me, it's hard. It's hard, like what we talked about in chat, like Nick Bosa versus, Kyler Murray. I just can't do it. Most time I just take that guy, and then when I see someone I really like, I go trade it. If I have to for that guy.
Right.
I mean, if you went Sauce, I'd have said, hey, that's a great pick.
Sure.
Pickett, I still think it's a good pick. I mean, I might have tried to off the ball or something, I guess would be the only thing.
Nothing's more important in Strat than the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And he did have multiple first-round picks. I think at one point, wasn't he Ed traded with him and then Ed traded up again, or how did that go?
Yeah, he traded into that number 4 slot, I believe. And then he traded the 4 slot to go up to number 1.
Got it.
So he traded with Dan, gave him on Winu, I believe it was, the guard and like a pick or something like that. Because we had also discussed that. I don't think Dan would have made that trade if he thought Sauce was going to be sitting there, though, to be honest. And Dan even remarked in the chat, that's probably why that he just never thought that would happen,
Right.
Because I mean, you wouldn't trade out of that spot thinking that Sauce would be there.
Yeah, and if Ed went up to number 1 or to number 4 without going up to number 1, I kind of think Purdy would have slipped to him, or maybe I'm wrong. But
he might have. But then Cincinnati had put out that thing saying number 1 picks up, open, be creative, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Ed was pretty creative, got himself in position, and he wanted to make sure he got his guy. I mean, it wouldn't have been a bad spot sitting at 4 because, your worst case scenario is probably like Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson if you really wanted a quarterback. Or maybe Ed just doesn't like Pickett that much.
Yeah, that's true too. Good point. So Houston, Paul, he gets the gift of the draft.
Yes.
Sauce, I know there's no way he thought Sauce Gardner was going to fall to him.
No. Like I don't know how many leagues there are draft-wise across the country. We focus just on the ones that we are in. But if there's any other draft in the U.S. that has Sauce going to 5, I'd be stunned. I mean, even if he got injured this year, okay, and we go to the SSFA draft, he's not going to fall lower than 5.
Who did we have mocked to Paul? Can't remember.
We had Tariq.
Oh yeah. Tariq Woolen, another guy who fell. So and that the reason why we put a cornerback on the team is he's got 2 strong safeties, Carlton Davis, and now instead of pairing him up with another 5 and Tariq Woolen, he gets to pair him up with a 6, probably a perennial 6 in Sauce Gardner.
Yep.
Well, it's really strange for that particular position to slip too. I mean, that guy's as good of a prospect as we've seen in a long time, and at the position that everybody loves and will pick. That's what's really impressive about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Quarterback, running back, corner. I mean,
I think corners trade better than running backs by a long
really.
shot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Especially for the longevity,
Well, yeah. There are a certain number of people that just flat out won't pay for running backs, period.
Yeah. And speaking of running backs,
Yeah, I would have.
Travis Etienne at number 6 overall. Michael, sitting at 7, were you hoping Etienne dropped to you there?
I wasn't hoping. I just assumed that he was.
So you would, he picked somebody totally different. If he would have picked Garrett Wilson, were you going to go Etienne over Hamilton there?
Yeah. So my goal in this draft was to get 3 people, and I got 2 of them. I wanted Horn, I wanted Hamilton, and I wanted ATN. And I was going to take Hamilton 9th, ATN 7th, and then try to see if I could find a way to wiggle my way up a few picks, because I wouldn't think that Hamilton would have made it to 18, so I would have tried to wiggle my way up. See if there was any way to get those 3.
Well, we did talk about in the I think I had this pick for him in the mock, and I said Garrett Wilson because he really needs a receiver and he really needs a running back. And I just thought he might go with the dominant receiver first and then come back for running back later, but he went the other way around.
Can I tell you why?
Getting a receiver later.
Let me tell you why I did that. Because I did seriously, and I was tossing ideas back and forth to you because I could have had anybody up there, literally any wide receiver I wanted. I had the whole pick of the board. The reason why I stayed where I was because, I think that for me, I feel like Mike Williams is like 40 years old. He's not old. He's actually only been in the league like 5-6 years, and he's still a very good player. And then who's my other one? Jamar Chase. I mean,
looking at your team, I wouldn't have wrote you down necessarily for receiver,
right?
Except that I know that you're willing to pay for a dominant type receiver, like let's say, like Garrett Wilson. And I was just talking about why Indy took, ATM.
Yeah, it was
Garrett
Indy
Wilson.
that needed the receivers. We weren't talking about your team, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a shocker at all with either of those picks.
Okay,
they were all really good picks in that area.
You mentioned yesterday though that you thought one of those 2 guys, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6. Both of you guys said, "Oh, he sure likes a running back. Maybe ATN doesn't make it to 7." So I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was a little surprised.
Well, there are a lot of running backs too, so you never know, who they're gonna target necessarily. I mean, it wasn't like, to me anyway, ATN wasn't the clear number 1 guy to take. I definitely like him.
Sure.
I look at things a lot more. Sometimes I look at the systems a lot. Part of why I didn't like Kyler Murray originally was I didn't know anything about that system. Just seemed weird. I didn't know if it would last. And now it's going to be interesting to see how it goes forward. And Jacksonville's got a pretty good offense, but they have a really good quarterback. So, I mean, that card may end up like, look what they did with Barkley this year. I felt like Barkley carried the team, but, he gave Daniel Jones a good card, and Barkley's card is, ho-hum, basically.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep.
So your heart got broken with Etienne. Now let's look at, I guess we can look at Indy real quick. So they were able to, he did need a halfback too. Let's face it.
Yeah, I almost went halfback yesterday, but I just thought I would go the more dominant Garrett Wilson over ATN there.
Right. Plus he's been on TV a lot with the Hard Knocks. So your heart got broken. You missed out on ATN. Right away you targeted Kyle Hamilton. And I just read Tom's draft recap. I had mocked him taking that player, and he sure enough said he was definitely thinking or hoping he would fall to him. So tell us about Kyle Hamilton.
So it's nice to have a slot corner 5, but more than anything else, he's going to transition straight away to safety this year. And if May can stay healthy, I can pair him next year with that. The last few years I've taken, let's see, who have I gotten? Savage, he didn't turn out to be anything. I think he's hit his ceiling. I think Kazee is back there. Maybe Chin might be back there too. So I've gotten 3 guys who were, second round. Well, not Kazee, but 2 guys in Chin and Savage who were, first and second. Oh, it's Mollering. It's the guy for the Raiders.
Right.
Yeah. They may have hit their ceilings at 4s. And everything that I've read about him in camp has just been phenomenal. On PFF, he looked fantastic. He just looked like a Swiss Army knife, and you can put him anywhere, and he's going to play and play well. Plus, he was the number 1, if I remember correctly, numerically, like the number 1 guy that was combined, basically. Clearly top 5, but I thought he was actually number 1. And I just thought, I'd just like to be able to lock down safety. And there you go.
Love it. Love it. So that opened up Garrett Wilson, who we had going going to Indy, to fall to the Giants, and he jumped all over him to Joe's team. So he's got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Not really a number one there. So now he gets to plug in Garrett Wilson, and he's got Justin Herbert a couple of nice targets.
Yeah, I'm looking at my paper here. I think I had picked him for maybe that tackle cross. So I mean, I know we missed on all these picks. I get it, but
Tim actually gave him Charles Cross.
Oh, is that right? So yeah. I mean, again, now he has his full pick of the board of all the wide receivers. Why wouldn't you take the best one? So I'm sure he was super happy to get him.
And he had 2 number 1 picks too, so it makes it easier to take a guy that maybe, you don't necessarily have a big need at that position.
Mm-hmm.
With Boyd and Higgins, those are 2 pretty good receivers, but now you're able to fill whatever need you have with that second first-round pick. So, all right, so that takes us back to you, Michael, and you took your other guy, J.C. Horn. So tell us about Horn.
So my inner spirit animal is Tom Cook, and the reason why I picked him is because even though numerically, sometimes we're too busy chasing down 5s, I feel like Horn is better than both of those two. He was a 8th pick the year before. I don't think anybody forgot about him basically, but what I really like about him is that everything I've read is like he is one of the premier and has the potential to be a premier man defender. So when you're talking about like a lockdown corner, that the only thing it's based on is what you do, basically. Is this guy has the potential to be basically that lockdown corner because his man defense is so good. And I honestly when I look at his numbers, again, PFF isn't the be-all end-all. We know that now after talking to Glenn for years and years. But if you look at his pass defense, his coverage rating, there could have been a case to be made that he would have been a 5. But I wasn't worried about the number this year. I'm worried about the numbers for the next 10 years. And I really think this dude is going to be a very, very good one. So
you also have a 5 at corner this year already. So you really, this was definitely future oriented.
That's right.
You want to go with who you think is going to be the best guy. And I don't know that you're wrong on that. I mean, I thought if I was in that spot, that might be the guy that I ended up getting, but I thought that because I thought the other corners would go ahead of it.
The other thought was kind of what you had said, Nathan, in that, where I've lost for so many years, basically, I just pick after pick after pick, and you were looking to fill your roster. So that's why we made these moves. My other thought here was to get Olive. I was seriously thinking about getting Olive here, but
yeah, Olave, yeah.
If I was sitting at 9 and I stayed there, my original pick before I traded back, I figured it would be Horn, Stingley, Olave, or maybe I'd get lucky with Garrett Wilson because receivers tend to slip, and it was a deep draft. Yep. Those are probably the 4 guys I thought I would legitimately draft in that spot.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's cool.
So I know that you like Horn more than McDuffie, but I guess I take it you also like him more than Woolen.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the draft pedigree and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's the thing, guys. What sources do we have? We're not GMs. All right. All we can do is go by PFF. We go by the NFL little draft combine numbers that we got and read as much as we can. And I think, granted, he's not a 5 like the other dudes, but as far as like low risk, I can't imagine this guy not working out. But then again, I picked C.J. Henderson a couple years ago, and boy, didn't that work out.
Well, I think we were talking about it before we started up the show, but this definitely falls into that same category where, eye of the beholder, basically. These guys are all really, really good. Like I said, I'd take any one of them, receiver and corner. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of halfbacks that way too. Same thing what I mentioned with ATN. Like they're all really good. There's slight differences that if someone likes one guy more than the other, you can have this wide distribution of where they go in these drafts just based on that,
Right, which is why there was no way that we could have picked better than what we did. It's impossible. It started right up at their top with Purdy. Even though we're sitting there staring at SF right next to the pick, we're still all convinced that no Pickett has the pedigree. So yeah, it's in the eye of the beholder. You're right.
All right, that takes us back to Joe for his second first round pick. Like I said, his first pick he grabbed the Garrett Wilson. Now he can address his need in the secondary, and he had his choice of Tariq Woolen and OJ McDuffie, not OJ McDuffie, Trent McDuffie, good old Miami receiver back in the day. So Trent McDuffie, he's able to grab him, and now he's got 2 5s and a 6 in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, seems like a good solid pick. I was kind of back and forth on McDuffie and Woolen. As I was making my list, I think I settled with Tariq higher just because I don't know, Kansas City has had some trouble in the secondary a little bit. And was there some slot concerns with McDuffie also?
Yeah, I haven't really.
It's kind of a nightmare these days trying to draft corners. I find myself never drafting any anymore.
I wish sometimes I wish he's listed as the nickelback on Kansas City's depth chart. So yeah, good point. Joshua Williams and L'Jarius Sneed are the list of starters, but then you never know what Strat's going to do. They're going to get their mystery source.
Well, he seems like he's a boundary guy, but I just don't like to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I wish I never knew if I had the guy.
Very good. All right, so then Olave goes to Tony at 11 to Denver. Let's see.
I don't think I had him down as necessarily needing a receiver.
Yeah, he's got Christian Kirk and Keenan Allen.
Yeah, he could. They're not.
Oh yeah,
world beaters.
But I mean it's not like a glaring need.
But it's a really good value there. I mean,
oh gosh,
he's still a really good option.
Yep, and he's able to again. He made the trade. He traded Garoppolo to me, so he had another first round pick later in the round that he can, target more specifically a need, while getting a guy like you said is a really good value. Boy, his team looks really strong in the secondary. I see 3 6 starting.
I was just looking to see if he had a corner.
Yeah, he didn't need a corner, so I can see why he didn't look at Tariq Woolen or anything like that. But man, that's a pretty nice luxury to be able to add a player like that to this roster.
And his nickel's 6 also.
Right, like a 6 nickel. Come on now. The only one in the set. So good luck throwing against that team. And then he's got Cameron Jordan on the line to bring some heat too. Okay, so that takes us to Green Bay, where Kayvon Thibodeau, is that one of the ones we got right?
I think that was. Yes, it was.
So
unbelievable.
One of our 3 picks in the first 2 rounds that we nailed
it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you guys think about Thibodeau going there? That's about right, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he'd be a great pass rusher. I like to draft him a little later since they're not as coveted, honestly, at the outside linebacker spot. And especially if you don't think they're – I mean, if you think he's going to get like even 4s, 4s or 5s, then you definitely have to go with it. But if you're not, I like to draft him a little later.
Last year he grabbed Jalen Phillips, who wound up slipping to the second round in SOMIFA draft. So he has a 0.69 at one outside linebacker, and he nobody else.
He likes his guys like I do. And Phillips sounds like he's doing pretty well in camp from what I've heard.
Yeah. Now, if Strat ever gives him a 4, look out. That'll be a really strong
They may not.
player.
I mean, T.J. Watt can be like MVP and get a 4,
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, so that fits his team well. And then we go to Chicago, and we originally said Chicago was going to take Brock Purdy. We had it following all the way down there.
Wow,
shows how much we knew. But he wound up taking Tyler Linderbaum, who we had going in the second, which is crazy too. Let's look at Chicago. This was a really weird card set for centers. I mean, there wasn't a lot of them. Did you find
There's a lot of bad pass block ratings. And he's one of them. I mean, he's a 0, right?
Right.
But he looks like a really good, obviously, player going forward. So
yeah, and he had a big need at center. He had a 0-2 possibly starting for him there. So pencil in Linderbaum for the next decade as his starting center, I think. So nice pick there. And that gets us down to the other guy who fell really far, and I'm sure Zeb was really happy. But Zeb is in the Seattle area, so even though he's a Rams fan, he gets all the Seattle news and the Seattle games. So he must have been happy that Turek Woolen fell to him at 14.
So
In the top 10, right? What did we have him? We had him going 5th overall. We wanted him going 14th.
And we had Olive going here.
Yeah, so he's got Justin Fields. I think he traded Mariota. And he needed it too. Fits him perfectly. He had Marlon Humphrey at one boundary, so now he's going to be able to pair him. Maybe he was already looking at cornerback and was thinking about drafting one of those 4s like Horn or somebody like that if he happened to fall.
I bet he couldn't believe that he fell.
Yeah, so he's got a perfect fit there for his team. And where does that take us to? The other corner, he could have been targeting Stingley. So he had his choice of Stingley or Woolen, and he went Woolen. Detroit grabbed Stingley, who had, I think, was he the best draft pedigree in this? I know Horn went.
he was like the 3rd pick in the draft, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he was like 1-3.
Yeah, he was.
Brad gets to draft him, and he had another guy with a need at cornerback. He had one boundary, Rocky Sin with a 4, and then he can slot in Stingley at the other spot. Oh, somebody's got their mic. I got it. Having an echo. Who's that? Michael. You got two things there. Your iPad and your computer. I'm hitting feedback.
That's odd.
Do you have your phone on too?
No.
Hold on. So it's definitely coming from your side, Michael. So we're getting some feedback. So can you just? I'm going to unmute you, but you mute yourself when you're not talking. Oh, he left. Well, excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to try it again. All right. Maybe he has 2 browsers open on the tablet or something like that. Okay, so Boye Mafe goes to TJ. Now, I thought this was probably the pick. I was like, that seems a little high for him. And that's just coming from me as a Seahawks fan. But what did you think about Boye Mafe? Did I miss something?
I told you guys yesterday, I know a lot of people like him. I don't know him that well. Like I think, I don't know. I had a lot of other guys a lot higher than him, but I know a lot of other coaches that seem like they know what they're doing, have really liked him in other leagues. And when people have been drafting him, they've been, giving it thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. So he definitely seems to be a hot commodity.
And he is starting, obviously. We have,
he's on a good young team, so
right.
He's on a good defense.
And he's got the draft pedigree, 2nd round pick. So, yeah, I just thought maybe he would slip a little bit, but he's definitely worthy of a late first, early second at the worst. I've never seen him go.
Well, the other thing is when TJ traded with me, he traded me at 2nd. So if he wasn't taking him here, he wasn't getting him, period. So if you like him, you got to take him or you got to try to move back. And it seemed like during the draft, there was at least 2 or 3 people talking about trying to move back. I know that Linderbaum, who Chicago, he was trying to trade back. And there was definitely at least one other guy commenting he'd like to trade back. So I think people, once they got a good look, were willing to, add some depth if they could. Because a lot of their guys, maybe they liked a bunch of guys and they thought they could get at least one of them several picks later.
All right, let's add Michael back on here. Talk, Michael.
Hey, buddy.
Okay, so it sounds good. It sounds like maybe you have 2 browsers or windows open. So we talking with Boye Mafe about Boye Mafe for the Chargers. Any thoughts on him? Where did you have him ranked?
Second round. I was just a little surprised. We're going to get to him here in the second round to see where he picked him. But I mean, this was a pretty weak draft as far as outside linebacker pass rushers, and he felt very strongly about him, so he made the move. Nothing the matter with that.
Yeah, not like Nathan pointed out when you were off that he didn't have a second because he moved him for T.R. Tart. So if he was going to get him, he had to get him there.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom's going to join us in a little bit, hopefully. But let's talk a little bit about his pick. I'm sure he'll talk further in depth on Ikem Ekwonu. So who would like to talk about the offensive tackle from Carolina? Were you targeting tackles at all in your other drafts, Michael or Nathan?
I mean, I did research on the guys because I knew he might be a guy I could get in this league. This was mainly the league I did most of my research for, a little bit in Autumn Wind just for the depth because I traded back out of the first round. Also there. I mean, he looks really good. He's a 6th overall pick. The team looks like it's going to take some good steps forward, I mean, you got J.C. Horn and Ekwonu in this draft are both looking like real good players. I mean, there's reason to be optimistic, and I liked him. I had him, I think, on top of my list for tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I did.
Yeah, I drafted him in Autumn Wind, and
yeah, you got him real late.
Yeah, I had when I was up in the first, I had my choice. I was going to either pick Charles Cross or go in a different direction and hope somebody like Ekwonu or one of the other tackles would slip. And so I did that. Even though I was a Seahawk fan, I wanted Cross. I was happy that it worked out, that I was able to address another need and then come back early in the second to get Ekwonu. So Tom will be here for me.
Just in front of Tyler Smith, and then I had Cross a little bit after that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, so you had Ekwonu, the first tackle overall then, huh?
Yes.
Neat. Okay. So he's going to like that. So Tom is going to join us, and he'll talk more about him in depth. But let's
Me and Tom can be wrong together.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go on to your first-round pick, Mr. Reeves, Breece Hall. So talk about Breece Hall.
Guys, so you had Ekwonu actually going to me at 18, but he wasn't a consideration. So when Etienne didn't make it, I went back because basically DeAndre Swift, who I love, only has 99 carries. And I basically made my decision that if I can get another running back, I'll trade Penny, which of course I did. And really my goal was to make sure that Joe Mixon never saw the field this year. To be honest, that's a horrible card. And I thought, what a 1-2 punch to have these two guys. And, I was watching video of Cook, I'm watching video of Hall and Pierce and all the other running backs. And of what I saw, I just love the.
Okay. All right, listen.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to be hanging out with my friends, okay? 1 second.
Oh, he's talking to his attendant, so.
Sure. Hall can do a lot, is all I'm trying to say. He's a very good athlete. He comes out of the backfield and catches balls. They send him downfield to catch balls too. I like these running backs with like 100 to 150 carries. I don't like it when they get the wheels run off of them with 200 carries. And everything I thought about him sounded great. And I don't know. That's of all the running backs that were left, even over Cook, I felt more confident with Hall.
Well, look at that card, though. I mean, love those cards that have the short cane stacked on the line book, and then on 6 and 8 off tackle and end run. And
I'd be lying if I didn't say that didn't hurt. I mean, come on, that's a great looking card.
And on top of that, he's got a plus 79 on a short pass. Not that you're ever going to hit that, but when you do hit a long gain on a dump off and it goes to your halfback, you hate when those are limited because their max reception was 22 yards. You're going to be able to get some good use if you have him in there, and he's got a decent pass block at 3, which is okay in this set. So I don't know.
I had Hall as my number 1 running back, so I like him.
Cool.
I think he did good there.
Thank you.
Look,
I had him in fantasy last year, so I watched him a lot. I really, really liked him.
All right.
And he looked good in the preseason. I mean, it looked like he was moving like the electric way he did at the end of the year, before he got injured. So he's got some juice. Even though they got Dalvin Cook there, Brees Hall is going to get plenty of time.
Well, when you can get a pick that fits a need and has the future value you're looking for, I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, and that came over through the golf trade. So, and I've got another first, next year, plus a good young tackle in McGarry. So I think that's a good haul for golf.
For sure. Oh, welcome, Tom Cook. I hear you there.
What's up, Tom?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Hey, Tom.
I see that I'm. So who's here? We got Dennis, Nathan, and is that
Michael?
That's me,
Yes.
Michael.
Son of Frankenstein.
Son of Frankenstein? You're the son of Frankenstein, Michael. Do you understand why?
I'd love to know. Please fill me
Are
in.
you Frankenstein, Tom?
Yes, Nathan gets it.
Oh.
You gotta have the right mindset, Michael.
Yeah, he wrote in his recap that you grabbed a couple guys that he had targeted, and basically he's saying that he's created a monster by giving you the tips and tricks that you needed.
That's right.
To become not only a very good Stratomatic football coach, but a good GM as well.
Hey, look. Okay, here's the litmus test. Hey, Tom, I took Horn as a 4 over McDuffie and Woolen. Are you cool with that?
I would have taken. I had McDuffie clearly as the number 2 corner, mostly because of Horn's injury past, and McDuffie had a very high NFL pre-draft grade and a very fine rookie year. And a fine for the year. I had a hard time finding any fault with McDuffie, really, except that he wasn't Sauce Gardner. So I would have taken McDuffie.
Okay.
Although I'm saying that from over here. Yeah, I would have taken McDuffie. Plus, the Chiefs are going to be in the AFC Championship or better every single year, and it doesn't hurt with your player rating sometimes on defense.
But you're okay with the idea that if you like a guy better, you take him even though he has a lower rating this year, in theory.
No, Dennis, I believe you should always take the rating for the year and never consider future at all. And
all right.
I don't know why anyone would take Cam Taylor-Britt over Kobe Durant, for example. He's a slot corner 4.
That scared me the year I took Patrick Mahomes and he had a crappy card.
Exactly. So, of course. Then, in case anyone doesn't know me well, I don't know who that would be, but maybe Tom.
For show watching, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't have any problem going for the guy you like better for the future. I mean, I've done it countless times, and I think that's generally the way to go. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha, buddy.
I really think the only exception is if you have a team that you really believe that you really think can go really far for the year, and this particular card is going to make a difference. Yeah. Like in SSFA 2 years ago, I drafted Michael Walker in the second round, outside linebacker 6'0". I knew he kind of sucked, but he helped me a hell of a lot for that year, which I knew he would. And that team was built to win, and they made the Super Bowl. I don't know who I played in that game. What did I lose to, Nathan? Do you remember?
There was that crummy Patrick Mahomes card.
Yeah, I was gonna double team that first play on the 53 seconds left or whatever, and he wouldn't have got that long gain, but I didn't. So, if what is it? If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, every day would be Christmas, something like that.
Sure.
We'd all have a Merry Christmas. So talk to us. We just finished your pick, Kim Akwanwu. So why don't you tell us about what you were thinking about? I know I read a little bit on your draft recap, but was he the number 1 tackle on your board?
Well, before I answer that, Dennis, my quick question is by how much did you have Tariq Woolen rated above Sauce Gardner?
I did not. So I was even trying to trade up for Sauce, and the only league I had a chance, I would have win, but just didn't work out.
I see. How far behind Sauce? Oh, well, was Tariq your number 2 corner, Dennis?
Yes, he was my number 2 corner.
Okay.
And that's
Well,
just based on me watching, having more,
familiarity.
face-to-face experience. Yeah, familiarity with Woolen.
More face to face. You guys play ping pong or something?
Absolutely. We play Jackbox. We play some games online.
So you asked me about the first round pick that I felt lukewarm about.
Oh,
Right?
you did. I thought you liked the Quan Yu.
Wow, I've got last year's draft up. Let me get the right draft up. That I liked him. Well, let me get there. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. Well, as I wrote in my thing, so I had been Dennis. I guess I don't know if you knew me well, Dennis, or just a lucky guess, but yeah, Kyle Hamilton obviously was a guy that I would have loved to get. I thought that maybe with him being only a slot corner for the year, that despite the 5, he might slip. I didn't realize that Michael had so many picks there.
He didn't until yesterday.
Well, when did you trade Goff?
Oh, 2 weeks ago, and then Nathan and I made a couple of trades that basically bumped me up to 9, right? Not 7, 9.
Well, you had dropped back to I had dropped back to 17. You had moved up to 9, and then I dropped back again from 17 or from 18. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Into the second round. So we traded twice. I moved back twice.
I was wondering where they had to get all those picks in the other rounds, and now I see him looking at my grid. It's almost every round after the first. Cleveland's pick belongs to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Second, third, fourth, and maybe beyond. I don't know. So, 6th round. That also Colton McKinnon, whatever the hell his name is. Okay. But so coming into the draft, I was feeling like I liked. I wanted. My secondary is awful. All I have is Tyson Campbell, who's very good, but no one else, which is very bad. And I liked it. I liked the secondary in this draft quite a bit. Corners and safeties, of course. What is Michael laughing at? Are you laughing at?
I'm reading this write up, and I see the Son of Frankenstein. That is hilarious. I've never been more honored.
Focus, Michael.
Honestly, I just read this.
You see, Michael. If someone's talking on the live broadcast, you need to mute yourself if you're going to be. If you're going to be giggling in the middle of them, like trying to have a normal sentence, because they don't know what the
like the Teletubbies in the background.
So I like the secondary players a lot, and I wanted to kind of get at least one of them, and I was hopeful that maybe I could get Kyle Hamilton because he had the slot corner rating, and that some people might not even be sure exactly what he was going to play this year for strat terms anyway. I thought I had a decent chance at J.C. Horn. I knew that I was not going to get, obviously, Sauce Gardner I was not going to get, drafting 17. And I was pretty confident that McDuffie would be gone. I thought I had a chance at either J.C. Horn or Kyle Hamilton. And I actually was not going to take Tariq Woolen. You know how I get a little about pedigree sometimes, take them in some of these positions. At 17, and he won at 14 anyway. So I did have the pass blocking specialist, Tyler Linderbaum. I did have him as a possibility, even though I have 3 starting NFL centers, one of whom is a 6 actually right now, but which is Ethan Pochich. But Linderbaum was supposed to be really, really good, and he had a ridiculous NFL pre-draft grade. And I was like, boy, I like having a good offensive line. He's a guy that I had interest in. I had interest in Kayvon Thibodeau, who with between the quarterbacks and all the other players that were available and some running backs, I thought that maybe there was a chance that Thibodeau would get to me. He seemed like the type of guy that even though he went number 5 overall in the NFL with kind of a lousy rating for the year and an outside linebacker position, kind of pass rushing guy that he might slip down into 17 or 18. That's not an unreasonable thought, right, Nathan?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this draft we talked about a little bit. There's a lot of variety in the drafts I've seen because of a lot of these guys are close enough that it's just sort of, who likes who, and that's how then things shake out a little funny sometimes.
Yeah. So so none of the guys were there, and then I was left with Drake London. Was a guy that now I did not do any video work outside of the quarterbacks. I did video work on the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and but did not do any other video work. But Drake London, I mean, hey, he was drafted number 8. He had a very good PFF grade for receiver, which you don't care about. He had a good year. He was a top 10 NFL picks, and I could use a receiver. Cooper Kupp's like 30, getting injured and all that type of stuff. So I thought about him, but I'm trying to be a little more aware of positional value and stuff like that. They also need offensive line help. My team is helping in a lot of areas, My offensive line and my linebacking core have both got talent, but they're still need to develop more if they're going to develop at all. So I also like the offensive tackle group. I liked all 3 of the top 3 offensive tackles that I had. And I said, you know what? Ekwonu, he's got a super high NFL pre-draft grade. He was drafted number 6 overall. He had a respectable rookie year for PFF grades of playing over 1,000 snaps. I don't like that he's got a mobile type quarterback there because those guys tend to get sacked more often, which hurts your ability to get good pass blocking.
That's what turned me off about Braxton Jones a lot. I think he'd be a lot more enticing even in later rounds. I wasn't too excited.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Fields.
So, but I still decided to go for and I thought about what's his name, Dennis got Charles Cross. I even thought about elevating him over Ekwonu, but at the end of the day, I said, you know what, I'll go with Ekwonu. It came down to Ekwonu with Drake London, and I was actually considering, and I thought about a player that I think is going to be pretty decent, and he plays a position of value. I thought about Desmond Ridder, who I like. I don't think he's going to be a great quarterback. He's not going to be winning MVPs or everybody goes to the Pro Bowl, but he's not going to be winning MVPs or even in that conversation and stuff like that. But I did watch clips on him, and I actually had him as my number 2 quarterback behind Brock Purdy.
You don't pick it very much.
Oh,
not that big on Pickett. Not that I think he's awful, but not that big on him. He was my 3rd. And but my track of quarterbacks is lousy, so that's probably good for whoever ended up with Kenny Pickett. So I thought about Ridder, but I said, Ridder might be all right. He could be pretty decent. I think he might be okay. But I just feel like Ekwonu or Drake London is probably more safer as a pick. And I had Drake. There's no way I could convince myself to take Desmond Ridder over Drake London. And Mac Jones, I think, will be all right now that the stupid Matt Patricia experiment is over.
So their D coordinator's not running the offense?
Yeah, exactly. And I read decent things in the preseason, and even Belichick complimented him. So, I'm glad you like
Drake London, and I had Ekwonu as my first tackle too. So,
okay.
Well, I want to know who the 3rd tackle was. So you said top 3. So your top 3. So Ekwonu, Charles Cross. Who was your 3rd tackle?
Trevor Penning.
Ooh.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, you wanted to take him around 2. So.
Yeah, well, he was a number 19 pick overall the NFL, and he's playing left tackle. And Derek Carr is there now, who I think is decent enough at getting rid of the ball if his line isn't terrible. Surely once the Raiders had a decent line, they started popping out 7s. And I read good things about Penning. I read he's kind of a nasty guy and kind of animal.
He's a psycho. I like him.
Yeah, and but then I also read complimentary things from Derek Carr about him. And supposedly this year he's listening to some teammates and Cam Jordan's been talking to them about pass rushing and stuff like that. So I feel like hey, he's a left tackle. Look, anytime you get a guy who's playing NFL left tackle and was drafted in the top 20, and you don't hear that he sucks, that's okay, all right, that's a guy that might pop out 7s. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, Michael made the point too that we're not scouts, we're not GM. So yeah, you're right. If the NFL guys are taking him in the 1st round,
I'm a GM
at a position at a position that lasts a long time, I think that tells us something.
Yeah, so, you always gotta. But still, there's plenty of busts, so you can't go just by that. but his health, he was injured a lot last year. So those are my top 3 tackles. Because Tyler Smith, I really was considering like a guard who may eventually be left tackle.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he is.
You know, and I did not do like in past, like if this was 4 years ago, I could have told you like why they consider Tyler Smith a guard versus a tackle, and if he projects as a tackle long term, and if he does, if it's a left tackle, which he obviously played 5 last year.
I think he's just on a loaded team. I think they really like the right tackle, and they still have Tyron Smith. So,
okay, so you view him as a left tackle long term, probably.
I think so. I think he's replacing Tyron Smith by next year. I don't know.
It would make sense. It would make sense, you know. He was gone by my second round pick anyway, but yeah. So yeah, that's what it was with that pick. I think I've covered everything.
Yeah, and then you had Ritter and Purdy as the top 2 quarterbacks. Now Dallas here is picking at 19th in the first round, or I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, 19. Yeah. So Zeb's on. Zeb, I'm going to unmute you so you can talk because I was getting feedback when you weren't talking. So tell us about Sam Howell and why you targeted him as the quarterback. Obviously you have Justin Fields, but tell us about Sam Howell.
One second, Dennis, just to clear something. My order was right? Purdy first and Ritter second.
Right.
I said those 2 guys. I just wanted to get that out there. Good.
Okay. Zeb, speak.
Yeah, it's not. I actually don't know that much about Sam Howell. I don't think anybody does, but it was more of a vote of lack of confidence in Tyler Huntley and Justin Fields.
Gotcha.
And I guess also my video work is less extensive than Tom's, and I wasn't in love with Desmond Ritter either.
So what do you not like about Ritter?
It's not that I disliked him. I didn't think he was. Say draft. Draft pedigree for whatever that's worth. Style of offense. Having a quarterback who's in a run first offense is probably going to lead to them getting worse cards. Sam Howell has got Eric Bieniemy coming over as his offensive coordinator, which is we'll see how that works out. But I have a pretty good idea that Desmond Ritter is going to be handing off an awful lot for Arthur Smith, where I think Sam Howell is going to be in more of a balanced or pass-centric offense. So it would give me better chances at getting playable cards in the future.
I definitely that's how I look at it too.
Now, Zeb, you have the ability. There's a little thing there to unmute yourself. Oh, okay.
A couple years ago, I kind of underestimated Josh Allen, and I kind of see some similarities, I guess, stylistically between Sam Howell and Josh Allen, and so maybe I'm kind of overcompensating for having underestimated Allen in the past.
Got it. All right, I'm going to mute you, Zeb. If you want to talk, just unmute yourself.
Are you still getting feedback from me?
Yes.
We all are.
Okay.
It's coming through your computer and then back through your microphone.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna leave the studio and try to reconnect too and see if that changes anything.
Perfect. Okay. So that's good. We got his input on Sam Howell before he jumps out and back in again.
So he has Justin Fields already?
Yes, he has Justin Fields and Tyler Huntley. He also had Marcus Mariota, who he traded during the draft. So he wanted a different style.
To me that, I was not big on Justin Fields going into last year, but I think if I had him right now, I'd feel like, oh, you know what? Let me give this guy a chance and see what happens. I don't think I would have jumped for. Well, I'm not a big Sam Howell fan.
Well, you know what's crazy? You should compare Justin Fields' numbers with Mitch Trubisky's numbers over their first several years. You'd be shocked because I actually like Fields too, and then I saw those numbers and they're awfully similar.
Yeah, but every play is different. I mean, Josh Allen's first 2 years, his numbers were not good.
I'm just saying I can definitely see being nervous having Fields and wanting to maybe have another guy.
I agree with that. I just don't think, but to me, it depends who the other guy is, right?
Yeah, I'm not calling him Mitch Trubisky 2.0 or anything at all. I consider drafting him in a spring league. I don't have a problem with him at all. I think he could be really good, but it's hard to tell with some of those guys that run a lot.
Absolutely. But I'm saying is that, like, I could definitely see if I had Justin Fields, I could certainly understand someone saying, you know what, I don't feel confident, right?
Yeah.
I could see your argument. I'm going to ride with him and see how he does before I make another investment, or I don't feel confident. But if I don't feel confident, I have to be getting someone else in there that I like a lot. And this is like a very strange quarterback draft, as we know. But like if you had Justin Fields and you're the first pick in the draft, and it's next year, and who was drafted this year at number 1 in the NFL? Is there a quarterback up there?
Bryce Young and
okay, it's CJ Stroud. Yeah, that group. Okay, so let's say those two guys look pretty good this year. Okay, in the NFL, and you're sitting next year, the first pick in the draft, right? And it's like, oh, I have Justin Fields. Let's say with what we know now of him, and I can draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Yeah, I'm going to do it because I'm not confident in Justin Fields. Okay, yeah, because you're getting a guy who top 2 NFL pick and maybe look pretty good as a rookie. That's understandable. But to me, if I have Justin Fields, I'm going to invest a late number 1 in another questionable quarterback. Then I feel like I don't think I want to. I don't think personally I would want to do that. But it comes down to how you feel about Sam Howell, I guess.
Well, the other thing is, I think we were starting to get to a point in the draft where there's a lot of guys that I don't know are necessarily so good that you. Like, for instance, I was talking early in the show and beforehand about how I couldn't draft a guy like Purdy or Pickett with Sauce on the board, or maybe even Hutchinson, or how I couldn't take Kyler Murray back when I had the first pick when I wanted Nick Bosa. You know what I mean? I just can't do it. But in this situation, some of these guys, it would hurt a lot less. I think with a lot of the other options you have. Versus what the reward.
You're saying you would have a difficult time passing on a pure blue chip like Sauce Gardner or Aiden Hutchinson for a maybe shaky quarterback like Purdy or Pickett does in the pedigree. But down at number 19, okay, I'm taking a quarterback that. It's a terrible feedback. Yeah, but we can use speakers. Do you have audio with your speakers on? Anyway.
Yeah, he's muted himself, so we're good.
Yeah, if his speakers are on, that's what it probably is. But you're saying that at 19, you're not passing on the type of quality of player like a Sauce Gardner or Aiden Hutchinson.
The thing you're giving up isn't necessarily, if you're wrong about the quarterback, it's definitely a lot less likely that you're giving up something really, really good than at the top, with some of those other guys.
I'll give you a hot take. If that's if you're using that vernacular correctly, since Zeb was saying he wanted the old provocative Tom, which I told him it's hard for me to do that because I'm not as well prepared, right? But I do think now, maybe it's because I'm not as prepared, I don't know. I think the league did not draft as well this year as they usually do, or as they were a couple of years ago. And I think there were some questionable picks there, late first round, well through the second round and stuff. I was pleased. I felt like, there's more guys that I want, But I feel like the league's quality of drafting was not as good as it has been.
Well, maybe it's because you haven't been around to keep them on their toes.
It could be. They're sliding. I have to go back to doing the draft shows and hammering people so that they take their work more seriously.
Relentlessly. Well, I'm glad to hear you at least liked my second round pick.
Oh, you and I were in, I think, what is it? In sync? I think we're in sync with a lot of the selections there. What do we got here? We got Atlanta.
Hey, testing. Have you got feedback now?
No, we don't. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool.
So was Drake Little your first pick, Nathan?
Yeah, that's where I moved back to.
Well, that's pretty sweet to go back to 33 and get him. Tyler, you took the running back from Atlanta. Was that what is your team competitive this year? Are you a good team or no?
It's okay.
Did you take the running back more for the year or for future? Or for
Some of both. I wrote it up a little bit. I've got Cordero Patterson also. I just think that the Falcons are going to have more than just their rookie running the ball. I feel like they're going to do a lot of running, and I don't necessarily know that it's going to be Algier getting a ton of carries, but I still think that he's going to have. I mean, you look at like Baltimore. That's how I'm kind of looking at Atlanta. Baltimore. I could see some really good cards coming out for all those guys.
I can see that too. I'm a big Arthur Smith fan. By the way, as an offensive coach, but you know, if what's his last name? Is it Algier? Algier?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Algier. If he doesn't get 9.0 or better on the off tackle wrong, he better get 150 carries. Otherwise,
Well, if I have 5 guys like that, I'll be able to run them all game, so I'll be good.
that's true. So, but yeah, no, a lot of your picks I liked. I was like, oh, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. You know, the third round, Jalen Pitre and Christian Watson. And as Sky Moore in the 4th round, I kind of wanted him.
Yeah, Nathan, your draft. I mean, Christian Watson way down there, Petrie way down there. Nailed it, man. That's some really good picks.
Well, I was all excited to move back. I had a year where I wasn't just full send going for it, and I was able to move back. And I found, I mean, I literally didn't even think about it till like a couple of days before. I looked at Michael's roster is just loaded. I was like, hey, he might want to trade back because he's got a really good team and he's pretty loaded. And it worked out. And TJ made me a trade, sent me a couple picks, you know, because he's got a pretty loaded roster.
TJ,
at least for this year.
How'd you manage to trade with TJ?
He sent me the email and was like, I want Tier Tart. I was like, I don't want to trade him. And he goes, well, it hasn't stopped you before. And so I told him, okay, fine, give me this and I'll do it. And then he did.
What was the deal?
It was 214, I want to say.
Yeah, 2 twos and a future 2 and a 3rd, right?
Future 2nd, and then like a 5th or 6th rounder or something like that.
That's right.
2 twos plus something else?
Yeah.
2 twos and a 5th.
Is Tart a 6?
He's a 5-1.
Jesus. Wow.
There aren't that many of them, though. And I told him, I don't really want to trade him. I wasn't even interested in putting a price on him at first.
Okay, let's put a 4 out there.
He's got Brady on his last card. He's got a loaded roster. So that's kind of think of your Michael Walker pick. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
sure. It's a good thing I'm not the type who cares about like protesting trades anymore. Or
you think that was that bad of a trade?
No.
That's like a late first for a 5 nose tackle who's young and starting.
I think 2 twos is better than late first.
Well, okay, if you're using the chart, which I know a lot of people do.
I'm not using a chart. I'm just, you know how I feel with the chart.
I gave up points on my trades for most of these trades I made.
Yeah, the chart is best used for.
It's useful for deals with some people because they use it, and in some drafts it's spot on. Some drafts I think it's not that great.
Yeah, we have the benefit of knowing what the guy did in that first year, whereas NFL teams, it's a mystery.
That's true. Yeah, so technically you can see our picks are more valuable then. But that chart is best used for sanitary toileting purposes. That's my opinion.
All right, let's get back on track here. We're talking about the first round of this 2022 SOMIFA draft.
Just the first round?
Talking about all kinds of stuff.
We'll talk the whole thing. But we want to get through the first round, and then we can go team by team or whatever you have. So Zion Johnson is the pick that we're on after Sam Howell at 120. The Bengals took him. Bengals had earlier, in the draft took Kenny Pickett at 1-4. So this is the Dan Thorhauer taking over from Jacksonville. Jay, any thoughts about Zion Johnson, guys?
Well, first of all, I thought about Dan in general. I don't know if you mentioned this already, but I really liked him taking Kenny Pickett at number 4 because I just love the idea of him having to root for the Steelers every Sunday.
Now you're talking.
But he is a Steelers fan. He's a fan.
Oh, that's right. Well, no wonder he picked him. But as far as Zion Johnson, I think I like Tyler Smith better, but I think Zion Johnson, you're getting a guy who's going to be guard. If you want to have that positional certainty, I could see preferring Johnson, but just in terms of overall likelihood to be giving you 6s and 7s as ratings, I would have preferred Tyler Smith.
Well, Tyler Smith also had an injury, so that might have been on some people's minds. Sounds like he's okay, but it wasn't questionable how much time he might miss or how hampered he might be by it.
I'm a little concerned about. I know he's drafted 17 overall, good NFL pre-draft thing, but only a 53 pass block as a rookie. I know he's only a rookie, and they can grow into it, but I don't know. That concerned me enough to say he's not a guy that I really want in the first round. I might love him. Where did he get him? He got him at 20. I like 10 picks later. I'd be like, 10 picks later. Well, I don't know his team or what he needs, but despite what Zeb said, I understand that. Unless like both of his offensive tackles are like 25 and Studley, I would say Tyler Smith is definitely the move. Or I would say over Zion, because he might eventually become the left tackle there, which has got far more value as we know when we're trying to trade or play even.
Yeah, so he's got Tyler Smith and Braden Smith and Taylor Decker as his current tackles, and he had no other guard. Roger Saffold on his last card is his only starting guard. So he definitely needed the guard. So Zion Johnson, I'm not. I think that's a good pick. I think he'll be a plug and play guy for him.
I forgot, of course, that Tyler Smith is rated as a left tackle right now, so he could not use him this year at all. So I forgot about that. So I guess I have to amend that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the pick.
They're pretty hard to get in this set too. There's especially pass blocking. There's not very many of them.
Okay.
All right, that takes us to the Lions for what is this? Their second or third pick? Their second pick. They picked Derek Stingley, and then they came back on defense again, selected Devin Lloyd at 121.
It was weird looking at the inside linebacker, looking at Devin Lloyd, and is it pronounced Key Walker or Quay Walker?
Quay.
Yes.
All right. It was weird looking at Devin Lloyd and Quay Walker and trying to figure out who you wanted, because they were drafted very closely to the NFL, and 44-3 versus 46 for the year. But if you look at the PFF grades, like one guy's was good against the run, sucked against the pass. The other guy was good against the pass, sucked against the run. So which one do you want? I had Lloyd as the number one, but I probably was not going to draft either one of these inside linebackers in the first round, just because I like the quality elsewhere, like in the secondary and that receiver and running back. But they get stuff, and partially influenced by Nathan in the last year or two. I thought a little bit more about
pass rush.
Considering
asset management.
Yes, asset management. Considering, like, you got a late first round pick is inside linebacker, the position you invested in, if there are players at positions that have greater impact when you're actually sitting down and trying to win the game.
And the easiest spots to hide, probably a weakness, are your 3-4 middle linebackers and maybe your right guard, depending on your offense, I suppose.
Yeah, but nothing wrong with the pick. The guy's supposed to be good. He's got good PFF grades. He's starting. So,
Well, he wasn't going to last until pick number, what would it be, 45, until the next pick that Detroit had either. There's, and that was actually part of my thinking with Sam Howell too. Was I didn't expect him to last until wherever was I picking, like number 40. So I kind of felt like even if I feel like I'm overdrafting him, if I don't have a chance to trade down, take the guy that you need.
Yeah.
And you're not
that makes
passing
sense.
up on a lot of dominant talents either in this area. There's a lot of guys that could be, interchanged in different spots, and people wouldn't be shocked or,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't see. I think he might have been overdrafted a little bit, but it's not as egregious as some other names that I see on the board. Players that I think were taken way too early. I heard what Tom said earlier. I agree with what he said, and I feel like the drafting was maybe not as spot on as it has been in other seasons.
But I want to say that I don't view this pick as an example of that. I have no problem with Devin Lloyd. I think it's a fine pick. I think it's a solid pick. I was just sort of bringing up the issue of that asset management, and I've come around to that line of thinking a little more. And then the positions that are more expensive to trade for, harder to fill, and very impactful on the field are the ones where maybe it's better to invest there if all the things are equal. Having said that, like, I don't know what his offensive line situation is. So Charles Cross is a guy there. Tyler Smith is still on the board. I don't know his receiver situation is on the board. I mean, a lot of guys don't take receivers too high, and I can definitely see that. So yeah, nothing wrong with the pick at all. Nothing wrong with the Devin Lloyd pick at all. I think it's a solid pick, fine pick.
So I don't get I don't subscribe to PFF, Tom. Which of the two linebackers was a better pass defender? Which was a better run defender?
Devin Lloyd was the good run defender with the lousy pass coverage. And
Okay.
Key Walker was the good pass defender with the lousy run coverage.
Okay, that surprises me a little bit, just because coming into the NFL, Devin Lloyd, with his scouting reports, said that his pass coverage was a strength of his in college.
Yeah, I was tracking him before, so there you go. But it was just a weird thing to have the two linebackers, drafted 5 picks apart, first round NFL picks, and they have like opposite PFF grades. That's crazy.
So Quay and Walker went on the 5th pick of the 2nd round. So that's probably about where Lloyd could have gone.
Yeah, and we all know how Strats treated linebackers in general in the last few sets. So, you don't want to have you can hide them, but you don't want to have a whole thing full of zeros at linebacker. So I see why you took him. You're right. There's a little, there may have been some other long-term values, but positions of need, linebacker and boundary cornerback are the 2 spots on defense where you have a lot more zeros that wind up in starting lineups in SOMIFA than you do at other spots. So
or 4s nowadays. That if you're competing, you're not likely to have a 0 in some of those spots. Though you just see them like they're winning the Super Bowl with a corner 0. No, and look at the guys that went to the 12 picks after Lloyd. And Lloyd looks like, it looks even better. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, I have nothing wrong with Lloyd. I just thought it was a good spot. I think it's a fine pick, a solid pick. I just thought it was a good spot to have that discussion about asset management and positional value. But you know me, Dennis, if I loved the guy, I would take him no matter what his position was. So,
exactly. All right, well, that takes us to 22, and Dale Ripley, believe it or not, he took Kenneth Walker, who's got a very hit and miss card. He looks fantastic running the ball, and Seattle is a run-first offense. But that card is not configured the way I like. Is anybody else taking a look at that card?
I didn't like it. I looked at it. It didn't stand out to me as being particularly good. But, I'm sure this is a future-oriented pick as well.
Yeah. And he does run that 4-wide offense where maybe he's just going to, live for those big hits on the edge when he doesn't roll a 1. So
I don't have the computer game yet.
Okay, so here's the card. I don't know if you're able to see it.
Let me see if I
can't. Yeah, I can't really make it, but you basically have a lot of meh in the middle.
I see it now. I blew up my screen.
He's got, some big hits on the edge, but just a barbell type card,
The barbell of only like the 10-pound variety, because even the heavy part is not really is not really heavy there. So
yeah,
it's not
short
a good card.
Straight across on 4.
Let's call it like it is, Dennis. It's not a good card.
It's not. It's really not. And he's a good receiver.
That's right. He only drops 10 out of 20, 10 out of 36.
Well, I guess you should say
with a +1 on 3 and a +3.
He does have a 33. He does have a 33. So I guess he's not a good receiver.
So it's 14 units of 3 yards or fewer on flat pass wrong.
Yeah, so.
But he does look like a good NFL player, and there's a pass first offense. Sorry, run first type of offense.
Hey, are you sure they're a run first type of offense? I mean,
I'm not so sure that they are anymore.
Yeah, that's my thinking.
I don't know. I still think they are. I mean, that's
Dennis is hard.
I'm just telling you, he had 228 carries.
Well,
Guys,
didn't Geno Smith break the all-time passing record for the Seahawks last year?
I'd have to.
Yeah, Nathan. But Nathan, who's he competing against?
I'm not. I don't care. It's still a lot of passing.
Nathan,
this is Tom's attempt to get a dig in at Russell Wilson. Jim Zorn, baby, Jake Craig. Come on now.
Nathan,
Warren Moon.
Nathan, what quarterback in Seattle history has really, shown what they could do, what Geno could do? Come on now.
John Kitna.
Apparently,
I forgot about John Kitna.
Being gone to find out.
So we got back-to-back.
But Russell's my starting fantasy quarterback tomorrow.
Let's go. I have Russ and Geno on my team. So
hold on. 572 attempts. That's the record.
No, the yards.
Oh, yards, yeah. 42-82. That's the record.
Yeah.
Even with Russell Wilson there for
10 years. It was 17 games in defense.
Yeah, but still like 42-82. I mean, Eli Manning, I think, is better than that.
For sure.
Boy. I'll try to
back to Walker. I mean, I like the pick. I don't like the card.
Yeah.
I like the player. Yeah. Is that what's the old mean Tom Cook? Dennis? So, I'm trending that way heavily, Zeb, right now.
I'm pretty convinced that running backs are victims or, beneficiaries of the offenses they are in. That's just how
absolutely. That is huge. So absolutely.
I don't necessarily look at these like I love a guy like Saquon Barkley, but he's probably, if they like Daniel Jones, he's probably not going to give me very good cards if I've got it. And if Geno's doing well, I'm assuming Kenneth Walker's not going to be great.
Gotcha.
But that's part of the problem. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Seattle, I still feel like deep down they want to run the ball, so we'll see with him. But that's part of the problem I had with 3 of my top 5 running backs: Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, and James Cook. It's like, yeah, these guys are good players, but I mean, how many great running back cards did the Packers churn out when Aaron Rodgers was there?
They can still get there if they just put a huge yards per carry up.
Aaron Jones put out some pretty good cards.
Who?
They also put up some really chunky.
Yeah, you're probably 5.5 yards a carry or something.
Yeah. You have to like Nathan. You have to get like an off-season average.
I'll show you an Eddie George card with 3.7 that you'd love to have.
Oh, absolutely.
And you compare that to Zeke's best year, and he can't touch it when he's over 5 yards a carry.
There's only one James Conner.
Yeah, well, he was 3.7.
Yeah,
I don't know how he came up with that one, but
so it's tough. It's tough to like I like. That's one of the reasons why Brian Robinson Jr. was higher on my board than he would have otherwise been. Like, oh, this guy looks like a pretty decent running back, and and how good can Washington's passing game be? No knock on the guy who just drafted there. Is that, I guess it is a knock, but they're not going to be as prolific in the air as some of the top passing teams in the NFL, right? So I feel like I've had a better chance for Brian Robinson to get a good card than James Cook, even if I think Cook might be a better player,
Well, I'm pretty sure Brian Robinson will get more carries.
Yeah. Which is not important. That whole you want the running back, the teams with the quarterbacks who run, their running backs tend to get better cards. I think Strat factors the quarterback running. They have to into the regular rushing attempts, even though a lot of those attempts in Strat are going to come off of a must run, although they at least changed a little bit now, making them right not so horrible in the last 5-10 years. But if you I love give me a running back on a team with a running quarterback, and or if they run the ball, your cards will be obscene. When Marshawn Lynch was dealing in Seattle, I think part of the reason his cards were so great is because Russell was also a running quarterback.
Atlanta, Philly, Baltimore, Chicago.
Oh yeah,
great cards, and I would expect that to continue.
Well, Baltimore might be changing.
maybe, but they're not. Lamar's still going to run.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're not
but we'll
running as
see.
much,
Yeah.
but they're still going to run.
That's a very interesting situation for the NFL. Like, are they really going to throw the ball as much as he wants to throw it? Like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. You know. And if they
All right,
if they do, how will he perform?
Yeah. Let's power through this last couple picks of the first round. Charles Cross, who I
Love that pick.
Yeah, a great spot to get him at the end of the first round.
Well, I would have taken him at 19 if I didn't take Howell.
Got it. Yeah, and I know you get a lot of the Seattle news up there, but Cross he's been everything that you would hope for in a young tackle.
Yeah.
He just keeps putting this, keeps improving.
Yeah.
And then James Cook is the Buffalo Bills pick for the SOMIFA Buffalo Bills, and I think we all like the way Scott drafts, and that was a good spot to get him at. That's an effective card, more effective.
A really nice card, right and wrong.
Yeah, not.
Which maybe that's why Josh Allen's cards suck so much this year, because they're calling him more of a running team, probably because Allen does run it a lot.
Oh, right. There you go.
Well, he only has 89 carries, so he'll be unlimited for a half until we.
Look at that guest right column though. That line book.
Yeah, you got to love that 4th and 2 to have him as an option. But guess wrong. Look at this off tackle. You like that plus 21 on 9, plus 24 on 11, plus you got the snake eyes hit. I love those kind of hits.
He gets more than if you line buck him guessed right. He gets 2 yards more than half the time. That's pretty handy for like 2-point conversions and goal line stuff.
For sure.
And then bring Brees Hall's card for me. I didn't get the computer because I thought I was going to be playing any games this year.
Yeah, his card is nice.
I figured it would be with the quote unquote passing attack the Jets had last year.
So he's not as consistent guest right as Cook, but he's got those stats,
last year wrong.
Yeah, and he's got the big hit off tackle and some plus 20s in there as well.
How about receiving?
He has
like the 6'7" linebacker wrong truck. He has a
plus 79. So I talked about this earlier. You get a dump off to him long game, you're not going to worry about him being limited. He'll take it down.
You could legitimately throw him short passes against 0 outside linebackers, and it's not a terrible, percentage versus some crummy tight end or fullback or something too, because he actually has some combos on his receiver card.
And he's got the 3 pass blocking, which is nice. So
he was on his way to a really good year before he got hurt. I mean, I think he only played.
Tell me about it. I had him in fantasy.
So did I.
Yes.
And if he had not gotten hurt, his quad I bet would be sick because Zach Wilson was the quarterback, and they would have viewed him differently than the guy who only played 83 carries or whatever.
That would have been a good one.
Yep. All right, guys. I'm not going to be able to go on too much longer. So why don't you each talk about your team? I'll let it go. You guys can keep going.
Was it only 90 minutes isn't bad. All right, Dennis.
Let's let each of you talk about your own draft. So, Tom, you talked a little bit about your first round pick. Do you want to go
is the Son of Frankenstein still on or no?
Michael, you there?
He's toiling away in the laboratory.
Did you mute him like a long time ago?
He probably muted himself. He doesn't realize it.
He's muted.
Wow, I told him that he had to mute himself if he was going to be giggling while reading other things.
He muted himself, so I can't unmute him.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, I've been in hibernation.
Okay. All right. Mute yourself again, Michael. I'm going to talk about my team.
I'm out.
In case you read any comments. You're
Stick
out.
around because we're going to want you to talk about your team next.
Yes. So. Okay. Well, we just did all right. Let's see. Oh, you want to talk my thing? All right. Try to be brief.
So we already talked about Ekwonu and Penning. So go through your third, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Well, you know how I'm sure Nathan will understand this, and maybe thinks that way. Some guys think certain ways. I don't know, maybe everyone thinks this way. Who knows? But you know how you're like preparing for a draft, and you'll find a guy, whatever, a corner or a linebacker, whatever. You're like, oh, this guy should be here, middle of the 3rd round. Whatever. I really want him with that selection, right? So not saying that saying that you think this guy is like a top 20 pick, but you think, oh, here's a guy that I like, and I think I can get him in this spot, right? So for me in this draft, one of those guys, and maybe foremost of one of these guys, was Cincinnati corner Cam Taylor-Britt, who was a he's a second round pick. He had a decent 6.18 grade. He started on the boundary from what I read, had a 69 coverage grade and almost 800 snaps. And I really need a corner, right? And I knew I was probably not going to get Sauce or McDuffie or Woolen, and a decent chance I was not going to get JC Horn, okay? So I was like, this is a guy that maybe I could get. I thought about him even late second round, okay, because I've got the good guy from Jacksonville. I need to corner badly, right? Of course, corners are. So Tim drafted. So I was trying to actually trade up for 317 to get him, and I couldn't work out a deal with anybody. And then Tim drafted 2 selections before I went.
Would you like to tell everyone what you were offering, Tom?
I don't remember.
An 8th round
Maybe
pick.
it was an 8th round pick to move up.
That's like classic Tom. I only want to move up 10 spots, so I'll give you my 8th. Which I don't want anyway.
I was looking more than only a couple of spots. I'd be happy.
We've had this discussion.
I think I offered more than the 8.
I don't think you did.
What?
I don't think you did.
All right.
Because it stuck out to me. I was laughing as it was basically, what happens every time.
It's a fine offer. 2 or 3 spots. Come on, to the 8. You can counter. I'll give you a 7 or a 6, whatever. But we need to talk about our Deion Dawkins trade, Dennis, before you leave. Are you there, Dennis?
I am here. You could have taken Britt if you would have traded for the second round pick.
No, he was gone. But he's gone.
No, right here, 247. I took Damari Mathis. You could have taken 10. That was like 12 picks before, or 20 picks before.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. I was looking wrong. I didn't think Britt was worth it right then, but
that would have been too early for him.
Oh, I see.
Well,
the fulcrum gave him exactly the right spot.
it's not that it would have been too early for him. It's that I thought Dawkins was worth more than the 47 overall. Nathan, do you think that this is ridiculous? Dennis, may I publicly divulge the nature of our trade discussions?
Oh, I already told him. Yeah, you're fine. You wanted my second round pick.
I wanted number 40. No, hold on, number 47 overall, second to last pick of the second round.
Yeah, second to last pick of the second round, plus a second round next year.
No, not a second round next year. Don't embellish. I can screenshot.
I have it here. Hold on, I'll get it.
It was your third next year.
Not your third next year. Yeah, that's too much.
And but you said, and I was going to give you back my 6 and 7 this year. So it was 2.23.
Okay, so when Dennis told me, he said it was a second this year and a second and third next year, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
I have it written right here. It's 2.23 today, and his 3 next year. For Deion Dawkins, my 6 and 7 this year, and he responds immediately. He responds, "Oh my God, you are ridiculous."
Well, maybe he misread it based on what you guys are talking about.
Is that a ridiculous? Would that be a ridiculous deal?
I like this draft a lot. So at first, I was thinking a second in this draft is a little bit more to me than it normally would be. Okay. But actually, getting a 6th and 7th, there's still some pretty decent players, I think, in that area.
Okay.
So I don't know. That doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it's not awful. I could see it's a little in my favor, but it's not. I don't think it warrants an OMG, all caps, by the way. OMG, you are ridiculous.
Well, let me put you this way. Dennis isn't allowed to say OMG to offers like that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just start with that.
Thank you, Dennis. Before we knew each other well, he probably.
I'm not going to condone the behavior, but from Dennis in particular, it doesn't work.
Yeah, before Dennis and I became well acquainted, I had Marshawn Lynch, and I drafted him in the first round in SSFA. And when the trading came around after his first big year in Seattle, Dennis offered me straight up a number 2 for Marshawn Lynch. The guy was a first-round pick in the NFL. Had been in Buffalo for years, just exploded with Seattle. He's got a really good card. Dennis offers me a second-round pick for the guy. After his first year in Seattle, not old Marshawn Lynch. You know?
I wound up getting him for a second-round pick in some leagues.
Yeah, I traded him to you for a second in a different league, in a fall league.
It was before the explosion, maybe. I don't know.
No, he wasn't doing that good.
Shades of
you acted when I traded you. You acted like I was screwing you on that one. I do remember that. I gave you a hard
Well-
time about it for a couple of years.
Well, there you go. We're
Shane-
back to the
Shane-
past. The
Shane-
greatest hits here.
Yes.
Again,
Shades of Travell Wharton, Dennis. Remember that one?
yes, I do. I still
So-
think he's only worth the 7.
Focus, Tom.
Okay.
You like
Jaquan Brisker.
which I like to hear because I did draft him in another league. So
Okay. So I missed out on Cam Taylor Britt, and I settled for Jaquan Brisker, who I think is pretty solid. I think there were some interesting safeties. Here you had Kyle Hamilton, of course, number 1 by far. And I had Jalen Pitre, Daxton Hill, and Jaquan Brisker. And Brisker's 6.3 NFL pre-draft grade, highest of those 3 safeties, and a decent 65 coverage grade as a rookie and almost 1,000 snaps. So I said, "Oh, that's a pretty solid guy. Hopefully, he'll be all right." I took him in the 3rd round. Then 4th round, I got the steal of the draft. I was coming up on the clock, and Dan Marino is 3 next year, so I said, "I'll make that deal." And there were players I liked in the 4th round. I had my eye, Dennis, you like this, since you read my strat thing. I had been, the 4th round to me, that's the round apparently where 1st-round picks who look like they're probably busts, that tends to be the round. That tends to be the round where they go in SOMIFA. So I had my eye big time on Kenyon Green, who had an obscene NFL pre-draft grade, but missed almost all of his rookie year, and now he's going to miss this year with injury. But I was like, hey, I worked with Melvin Ingram. It didn't work with Andre Dillard. So, but I was thinking about that. But David Ojabo was also on the board, and it's hard to get a defensive guy. And he's not out for the year. He's starting for Baltimore, and linebacker is like a premium. So
like
I really
second
wanted.
round pick too, right?
Yeah, it was the NFL second round pick, number 45 overall. Not even that. Not even 60, like you might think for a team like Baltimore. And I traded Kevin Dotson to Dale Ripley, who will take all pass block 7s that you can give him. And for that pick, because Dotson got traded to the Rams and is currently listed as a backup. So I was really happy to get Ojabo there, because you could never have enough linebackers because they're almost all going to be 4s anyway. Then 5th round, I took Cavante Turpin, playing as Deb Strong move, worrying about roster room. So I said LP/LK. There's only 2 of them I think that I might get where I wanted one, and my roster space is a little tight, even with the 55. So I took this guy who has the benefit of still returning for the Cowboys. I was pleased with that. Then late 5th round or whatever, Nathan traded me his 4 next year. I grabbed that. Then I kind of had a shaky trio here. Rudy Ford, 28 years old, not really a prospect, but he's starting at Green Bay for Green Bay. It's strong safety, and he had a decent year last year.
Yeah.
Khalil Shakir has got a decent NFL pre-draft grade, and he's a wide receiver for Buffalo, and they will throw a deeper time to Josh Allen, so maybe this guy will develop in a couple of years. They've done a decent job of developing some other receivers. And then Cameron Thomas, 7th round, had a decent NFL pre-draft grade for was a pass rusher, and had a decent 70 pass rushing grade as a rookie and almost 300 snaps for the Cardinals. That was a 3rd-round pick, so maybe he can eventually do something in terms of rushing the passer. Then I shipped off 7, 8, 9, and 10. Basically, the 7, 9, 2 10s to Ron Martin for a 6 next year and a 9 next year. And that was the draft. All told, it was a weird draft for me because I did not get one of the real good corners that I wanted, particularly Cam Taylor Britt.
When your roster is overloaded like you are, maybe you could have bumped up that 8th to a 7th or something.
Yeah, but I was also thinking I might just get the guy flat out.
No, I know.
And also
You're always thinking that though.
And the draft is moving so quickly that by the time you're thinking about it, it happens. You know what I'm saying? So
it is very hard. I talked about it at the end of the show. It is hard because I talked about if I want to pick it, I would definitely be trying to move back a spot or 2. If I wanted, there's a lot of guys where ideally you'd have picked them a little bit later, and some guys were trying to move back. It's just really hard to do on the clock in this draft.
But I was drafting 17 in the 3rd round. After the first 4 picks, you still had Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, Cam Taylor Britt, and Jalen Pitre, any of whom I would have been happy with.
Yeah.
There's still 4 guys there, and I'm 12 picks away.
Well, I'm glad I could take 2 of them from you.
So it's okay, maybe. So it's okay. I've got a good chance to get one of these guys. And how much do I want to get to move up, and then do what? Pick which one I want or whatever, So I felt like Burks would not get there to me, but anyway, and yeah, so I stayed home, and then I made you talk about Dennis was what felt like my Dawkins deal was asking too much. After Tim made the selection of Cam Taylor Britt at 15 overall in the third round, I messaged him and say, "Hey Tim, what would it take for me to trade for Britt right off the bat?" I had 3.17, and he said my fourth round pick. So he wanted 3.17 and 4.17 for 3.15, and I decided that was too steep.
Yeah, that's too much there.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did because I ended up trading that for Dan's 3 next year. So I'd have been able to really give up 2 3s for 3.15. So, and I liked Taylor Britt, but there'll be other players. You can't get too married to one player unless the guy's like really great,
I'm glad you liked it. That was my first pick in another league, so in the third round.
Jaquan Brisker?
No, Taylor Britt.
Yeah, one thing I worry about with Brisker is that Strat will give him the hard-hitting safety treatment.
Yes.
Where they don't. I don't like that, but
45.
that happens to those pounders sometimes. Get the 4.6, 4.5, 0.6 kind of thing. So.
Yeah, but after him with Hamilton, Petrie, and Hill already gone. I mean, Darren.
What about Tony Adams?
Well, he's in the UFA. He's starting, partly because Chuck Clark's out for the season. I don't know if Chuck Clark is late for safety, but I don't know. I'm not going to draft a UFA with 120 snaps last year in the third round.
Well, I thought you might have some inside scoop on him.
No, I don't. He didn't play that much last year. The inside scoop is that he's starting at free safety. That's all I can tell you.
All right, let's head this over to Nathan and talk about your draft. We talked a lot about some of these guys already, but Nathan, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of?
Well, when I moved back a bunch, I was thinking I might get a corner I like. Some of the guys Tom was talking about in this area, but I definitely thought I'd end up with a receiver, and I needed one. So I was pretty happy with London. Seems like real good quality. Not a great card, but definitely usable if I needed to use them. So I was happy with them being my first pick. Algier I took kind of like what I was talking about earlier with just the quality of the teams that are running the ball like they are, the quality of the cards they're getting. And I also have Cordero Patterson. That I was definitely on the fence with Algier a little bit just because I have so many running backs. They drafted the other guy that's obviously going to be the number one guy. But I still think he's going to get a lot of carries. I think Cordero probably will too. And his value here, I mean, if I take like Gus Edwards when I took him at the end of, first round, early second round, I don't see this as being that much different over the years. He's probably going to be getting a lot of good quality carries. So I was happy to get him there. And Petrie, I liked him. I took him in S28. I think he might have been my first pick there in the second round or whatever it was. I think he's definitely got some good long-term talent. And I ended up kind of around this point realizing I'm probably not going to get one of my corners I'd been targeting. And I definitely needed a corner also. But Christian Watson, I wrote up in my write-up. I'm not exactly sure I like him. Seems pretty good, but I didn't feel as good as I might have felt about.
But the value there,
I see Sky Moore, Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks, a lot of those guys. But he's got a good card. He's got pretty good draft pedigree, and I've had pretty good luck with the Packers receivers. I think I got Jordy Nelson in like half the leagues I played in back in the day.
And he was such a value. I mean, he was going second round, late first, early second in a lot of drafts.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like him. The receivers looked like they were slipping a lot more in this, which was nice. I was happy I really loaded up actually because I had Devonta Smith, which is a good player. And then I had a guy who I drafted in the supplemental who's okay, actually, but, I didn't want to be starting him. But James Houston, I mean, this is my kind of guy, especially for this type of league. The pass rusher, just full pass rush. I was excited to get him. And there had been talk of them maybe trading him because, like he's a roster bubble type thing. And I was like, man, someone will definitely – take that guy and he will play and he will get sacks. He may not be a starter, but he's going to be in there a lot getting pass rush, and that's all I really need from him. So,
yeah, and if he gets on a team that plays more of a 3-4, and you get him like as an outside linebacker / defensive end rating. That's
all that
kinda
guy's
nice.
got to do is get like 6 sacks. I mean, I think he got 6 sacks in like 4 games last year or something like that. All I need him to do is give me 6 to 8 sacks a year, and I can start him in the way I like to play. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that. He definitely looks like he's got talent, upside. Sky Moore. It seemed like they had a kind of a crummy game, so I feel like
He slipped a
I
little bit.
like him a lot. I feel like maybe he would have gone a little earlier. So I mean, he's now
Yeah.
the third receiver I drafted here, and getting him in the 4th round, I was pretty happy.
Pretty nice to get a really fast receiver with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is, I mean, I love watching the Chiefs games. It's just everything about it's usually a fun offensive time to watch. So
And Nixon's got an
Michael,
explosive return card.
yeah, he's got the best punt return, I think, in the set according to Ed, and he can only be a number 2. But I've got got a pretty good guy already as we my number 1. So, but this Hoped guy, he was playing. Do you know anything about this guy, Tom? He was playing defensive tackle, and then they put him at outside, and he seemed like he was doing pretty well for the Rams when I watched him.
I only know from his numbers really that he's another LA UFA or a late draft guy. This kid's thinking UFA.
Yeah, he wasn't drafted.
Yeah, his numbers weren't terrible, and he's starting outside linebacker. But that defense is going to be probably pretty bad this year. I mean,
It's a really weird transition from DT to outside backer.
It is.
Yes.
But
I mean, it happened last year out of necessity. It was, and he played so well that even when people did come back, they kept him there because he was doing better than expected. And I think his last name is Hoyt, like it was Hoyt.
Well, my next pick wasn't probably my least exciting. Kohu, he's a 4 corner. I mean, I think he might be playing nickel. He'll give me some basic ratings, nothing exciting. But I needed a corner, and I didn't.
I have an important question about Michael Hoyt.
What's that?
I have an important question about Michael Hoyt.
I'm sure it's important.
Thank you, Zeb. I'm assuming that he's not still 6'4", 310.
I don't know. I mean, he was a defensive tackle.
Because on ESPN they had him at 6'4", 310. I'm really just curious going from DT to OLB.
I don't think he was used in coverage very much. If you looked at his PFF, I'm sure most of his snaps came rushing a passer.
Still.
Yeah, I know.
Ed's already got the rating. The roster is updated, so you can go up there and grab him. I got an email from him.
Well, there's a few kind of these weird transitions in the NFL. You got these guys like Rodney McLeod, who's a linebacker this year, and then Isaiah Simmons. I don't know if they've ever rated anybody as a linebacker / cornerback before. So defensive tackle, outside linebacker.
It's easy to rate a guy at linebacker corner if he sucks at both.
I sure hope that he gets me some sacks as an outside backer, and then they rate him as a DT. That'd be fun.
Michael Hoyt had 31 coverage.
Well, I don't think they're going to be lining him up as a DT though. I think he's going to be playing as an OLB moving forward. Yeah, unless everybody gets hurt at defensive tackle, then they put him back there out of necessity again.
Well, Nixon's still starting at nickel, I think, and he's a punt returner, kick returner. So I didn't feel that seemed like an okay spot for the quality of his card. Sam Williams, I don't know. Did you guys like him before he got in trouble?
Yes,
I liked him a lot before he got. I didn't even number one. I didn't even know he was in trouble.
Yeah, he keeps getting pulled over doing like 100. So
well, I liked him better before that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I felt too. So I actually I was happy to get him here. I think this is the one I traded you, right? I traded you the 4th for this pick.
Yes. Is it a 5th round pick or 6th round pick?
Yes. Originally Jets, 5th round pick. That's
he had a 6.31 NFL pre-draft grade, which is pretty high. And he was drafted in the NFL late second round, and a 71 rookie pass rushing grade in 300 snaps. There's a lot.
I thought he looked pretty good. He's been going really late, but I assume it's the trouble he's been in.
Well, it's more than getting pulled over for speeding. I mean, that's been happening repeatedly. He was he had problems in college, and I think there was also controlled substances and firearms involved in this last traffic stop.
Allegedly.
It's a fun night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trey
Well,
McBride's
then
a
I had
solid.
to take a tight end because
Yeah,
I couldn't
like that
get
pick.
Okonkwo, whatever the hell his name is, because I managed to trade back far enough where I wouldn't be able to get him. Although he went right in front of me one pick, I would have actually had a hard decision there. And I don't need tight end. I know you mocked him to me, but I've got Noah Fant has a pretty good blocking back card, and Evan Ingram actually has a really good card too. So
Nice. I like McBride. I think that's a good upside pick. And then McKivitz, solid tackle prospect, right?
I mean,
And
for the
he's
sixth
back in the
round, I
sixth.
get a starting
Yeah.
tackle on a pretty decent team. I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
And actually,
And-
my pride and joy of this whole draft is Hassan Haskins, I think.
He's got a return
That's
card
not
and a
even
halfback
looking
card, right?
What's that?
Yeah, let's look at it. He's on the Giants, right? This is the kick.
Tennessee.
No, he's on Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Sorry.
He's my Trey Sermon of the year. Let me put it to you that way.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
He's
so
got that
he's
big catch, right?
an out pick. Okay.
Pretty cool. And he's got the return card, which I don't think you needed.
I don't
but
think I'll use that.
That's there. So very cool. All right. And Metellus is in for a ninth round pick.
I was going to mention about Cater. I had a lot of good things. I was more of a nickel corner, but I heard a lot of good things about him last year. So, what's the name? Ramsey's out for a while and injured, so I like that. I think he's a good guy to get as a slot corner.
Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't that exciting to me. There was a lot of other corners I liked a lot more,
Yeah.
kind of like what you were talking about. You know, I liked, obviously, Britt. I looked at Emerson possibly as a pick, and Kyer Elam I took in a couple leagues and starting and was a fairly high pick. I did like this big giant bastard Daniel Fillell, though. He's like 6'8", 380 pounds for the Ravens. That was kind of a fun pick.
Nice. He will be there behind Morgan Moses right now, but yeah, I can see him slotting in if there's an injury at guard. So that's a nice.
Well, I think they tried him at guard a little bit last year, but I think he's almost too tall to play guard.
Gotcha.
It sounds like they think he's probably going to be like, he's probably not quick enough because he's like, not only is he like 6'6", he's like 375 pounds.
Oh, he's 6'8", 379 pounds.
So I don't think he's going to be playing left. I think he's pretty much profiles as a right tackle only.
He's behind Morgan Moses on the right side.
Yeah.
Got it.
But one of the things that I like about making a selection like that, and when we do Zeb's, one of Zeb's picks was a guy that I was eyeing for that. So sometimes you get a guy, maybe they're drafted NFL third or fourth round. They're not starting right now, but they're backing up a guy who's maybe an older player or injury prone or something like that. And look, Morgan Moses is not going to be the long-term right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. You know what I mean?
No.
I mean, it would not. None of us would be surprised if Morgan Moses played 1 year for Baltimore and then was gone. You know, so you get a guy that right now he doesn't seem to have any value, but the guy in front of him could be a pending free agent, could be.
He seems to have value. I was eyeing him in the ninth round.
Yeah, I'm saying he's not expected to start right now in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have value on the card. That's what I mean.
No. Yeah.
You know,
I think they took him in the fourth round. They spent, an actual pick on him. So
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give you if you extrapolate a little more, I think like 2 years ahead, you can get something good like that. I try that sometimes. It almost never works. But and Zeb, you had a guy. I don't mean to jump on Zeb, but when I get to your draft, you had a guy that.
No, let's talk about Zeb's draft. Like Zeb. Oh, go ahead, Tom. Tell him about your guy that you're looking at.
Yeah. Who are you thinking?
Nick Cross.
Oh yeah.
Because I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy, third round pick, all right, decent, I think pre-draft grade, whatever.
Mhm.
But strong safety. They got Julian Blackman, so I googled
And Rodney Thomas.
So I googled Julian Blackman's contract, and it's like, oh, he's a free agent after this year. You got Chris Ballard there. He's not going to pay a safety a lot of money, probably. Maybe Blackman walks, and maybe this guy gets a shot to be a starter the following year. You know, so he was like a late sleeper for me for that type of mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's Yeah, he's looked good in preseason. They drafted him knowing that they drafted him based on athletic talent. They didn't expect. They said it was going to be a year or two before he would be expected to contribute. So that's all kind of.
Let's go through your draft then, Zeb. You tell us about your draft. We already talked about Tariq Woolen and Sam Howell. Damian Pierce.
Yeah, Sam Howell, the 3 quarterback attack.
What about your pick of Damian Pierce? There were some other running backs on the board there.
Well, he wasn't even. If I had followed my board, and this is my favorite pick of the second round was Ed taking Jordan Davis. If I just followed the board, I would have taken Jordan Davis.
Yeah, the nose tackle for the Eagles.
Well, no, nose tackle / defensive tackle. But I've got Derrick Henry, who's getting older, and the only other running back on my roster was Jarrett Patterson, who's not even carded this year. So I need another running back, and I do like Damian Pierce's running style. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Marshawn Lynch. And it gives me a guy with. I like having guys with carries. I hate getting into a game where you're sitting there passing the ball in the second half because you've only got 5 carries left. So he projects to be the probably 200 plus carries again next year. Where somebody like Tyler Algier has got a nicer card, and probably in a better situation. Although it wouldn't surprise me if Houston runs the ball quite a bit this year too. But I'm more confident that Pierce is going to be getting a higher number of carries.
Houston might run the ball until they're down 21-3 at halftime.
Yeah.
Bring up.
Well, if they keep running the ball in the first half, maybe they won't get behind that far.
That's right.
He wants to look at
slow the game down.
Show me the card. Don't make me buy the computer game so soon.
Okay, you got it.
I did like Trevor Penning, but I would have taken Jordan Davis over Penning there. I would have been trying to pick up Penning in the 3rd round. Just based on his rating, I thought he might slip a little farther than he did. But I like that pick there, Tom.
So this is a little bit like Kenneth Walker, where it's like kind of okay in the middle, but you got your big hits on the edge. It's got the 1 on 3 off tackle.
It's always fun. It's always fun when they're never going to call run because of this card.
Well, so here,
and you're pounding off tackle and you hit a couple long games in the same game.
So Tom and I we've probably discussed this on shows in the past. About rating running backs for consistency as opposed to having hit or miss cards. But why is it that everybody likes hit and miss receivers but hates hit and miss running backs?
I think because we run the ball looking for sustained continuous offense, and the receivers.
Couldn't you do the same thing with Wes Welker? I mean, just pick up a 7-yard flat pass every time.
And
I'm not saying this to pick on you. I'm actually kind of thinking about my own, kind of trying to rethink my own strategies.
We're talking strategy, but also like some of the big hit and miss receivers, they don't seem as. Oh, okay. Like the receiver who's maxed out and did not have a big average, he just doesn't seem all that effective. Whereas the running back who's got like the solid yardage up down the court, we know they're really, really effective, right?
Well,
so I think part of it is you're not missing out on something really good if you get that 16-22 short pass big average guy compared to the 22-30 11-yard average guy with no long gains at all in the short pass column. Whereas so that's part of it, I think. And like, and you still always, you have more chance in that receiver card for a big play than you are most running backs card, unless you're talking about a vintage Corey Dillon or Tiki Parker.
It's also easier to consistently throw the ball to those guys because you have enough other factors that are letting you make those completions when they're not guessing pass enough. You don't have that on these kinds of running cards. You have way too many just like disappointments, I guess you'd say. versus like an incompletion versus a 1, 2, 3 yard run. I can see how you're looking at those similarly, but if you've got a third of the defensive card is receiver rating, and your guy has like let's say 6 to 9 if he's one of those hit or miss high yardage guys, then you're looking at let's say it's 6. You're looking at like a 1 in 18 chance. Is that about right? 1 in 18 chance every time you go to the D card of rolling one of those long gains. That's twice as good as hitting like a 2, or it's just as good as hitting a 2 or a 12. So you mix that in with the quality of your quarterback, and your quarterback's going to make a lot of those completions for you.
Yeah, not mine.
I was wondering if you're referring.
That's why.
I was wondering if you're referring to that, Nathan, in that there's more. If you throw a short pass to like a Deshaun Jackson 1622 short pass card, there's more chances for a good outcome.
A really good outcome.
Than because even if you don't roll receiver, there's with the completions and stuff,
your
there's more
completions
on the quarterback's card, defender X, dump off, what have you, than there are if you do a run. So if you throw to Deshaun Jackson short pass, you don't get the receiver long gain. You can still like get 10, 11, 12 yards a various number of ways. If they get past, you can still dump off. Whereas you run Damian Pierce off tackle, it's like you don't get the long game. There's fewer chances to get something really nice.
Yeah, I guess some of that would depend on whether you got a whole bunch of 6s on your offensive line too.
It absolutely matters. The whole system matters, and so what I'm telling you is, for me personally, because I'm the guy that loves the high yardage receiver most of the time, and there are seasons where I don't play him as much, or I don't go after him, but that's just because of the makeup of my team has changed enough where it's not as effective for me. And then what I'll end up doing is only against certain opponents, when they start over compensating and like double teaming this other guy way too much and leaving this good matchup over here, then I'll just say, screw it, I'm taking this guy out, putting in the scary guy, or they're calling too much run or whatever. And then I'll just, go out there and do whatever the hell I want to do for the rest of the game. And then they're either gonna have to stop or they're gonna get slaughtered. So it's usually a big picture, You can't just go out there with an 18 catch guy with a bunch of long gains if they just sit there and call pass the whole time and don't do anything. It doesn't even make sense to throw to the guy,
Yeah. Anyway, that's something I just been thinking about, my personal tendencies and also what I see, as in a number of other people.
I'm always thinking about my point of view when I'm saying a lot of this stuff, so I hadn't really thought of that. But that's actually a good point. I think that's why.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting concept.
Something that I think is also like just what seems to work. Like the chunky backs, just like they just don't seem to really go that far and do a lot for your team. We've all used them. We've all played against them. Sometimes they can be a pain in the ass to coach against. But like if you want to go deep in the playoffs, it just has seemed like they're not getting the job done. Whereas we've seen like the big yardage receivers,
right.
Have a lot of
they're going to hit a clunker
positions like being more effective. So I think some of the trial. And again, what are you comparing it to? Like if you can get a car with solid yardage up and down, like that guy you showed before, was it James Cook? When you get the car with the solid yardage up and down, we know that works well. So I don't know. So I never thought anything before either, Evan. Just mentioned because you mentioned it.
Okay, I hate to go like pedal to the metal here, but I got to wrap it up, guys. So,
okay.
Zeb, tell us about the rest of your draft. Anybody else want to
highlight? Third round pick was. I don't love Marcus Jones. It just kind of like Tom talking about saving roster spots. I thought he was the best long-term return guy, possible cornerback, but nothing.
Playing corner too. I like that.
Yeah, well, for now, I don't know that that's going to be long. His role outside of returns is really up in the air right now in New England. So. We'll see. I feel like I overpicked him there, but then it freed me up the rest of the draft to chase value. Fourth round pick, Zach Tom. Actually, I really was hoping Troy Anderson would fall, and he didn't. So, I don't know where he's going to play on the offensive line, but he's expected to be one of the Packers' starting linemen. Whether it's guard or tackle.
I like that pick.
So it's kind of a depth pick without, hopefully he can help somewhere in the future. 5th round, Alante Taylor. Oh, he's going to be playing slot corner this year, but I think long term he's probably a guy who can play outside corner. It's not like he was battling Polson Adebo through camp.
And he has a good draft pedigree too. I think
yeah. He's again. I picked Marcus Jones and then just kind of spent the rest of the draft picking guys I thought were taking value instead of trying to plug holes.
Well, that's the latest. Jones is gone in 3 drafts now. So
is it
at all?
Yep, I think it's a good pick. And then you picked a starting guard for the Seahawks, Phil Haynes, later in the draft.
I did. Well, actually, I like my 6th round pick potentially. Zamir White. I mean, we'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs, but he now I've got 3 very similar stylistically running backs though. He's another more of a guy who's an inside the tackle box, break the first tackle style of runner, as opposed to a speed guy. But could be getting
Jacobs is due to break down maybe with all those carries.
Or even if he doesn't break down, will he be in Las Vegas next year? I mean, it was hit and miss right up, and they seem comfortable with him as their starting back. So that kind of reading between the lines, says something to me. Nick Cross, Tom touched on him already. Current backup safety. Phil Haynes, yeah, he's old. He's an older player, but his starting guard. I liked him a couple years ago. Didn't take him, and then he wound up riding the bench, and so I never really followed him that closely until this year. Kingsley, looking good in the preseason for the Packers. Kind of some Preston Smith insurance there, I guess.
Then your 8th, 9th, 10th round picks. Nothing too exciting, but you're not
Good
trying to
yards
get
on that
some.
card
You're
too.
Bill Cox.
Because you draft a lot of those high yard receivers for,
Oh, my 10th round pick, Jalen Naylor. I was surprised he was there.
I was too. I didn't need a receiver by that point, or I would have taken him earlier.
Yeah. High yard guys. I think he's probably going to be playing quite a bit more this year. He was a speed guy coming out of college. He sounds like he's been kind of injury prone in his college, and it's not like he was even hurt at the end of preseason. So we'll see how much he plays. But
cool. I like it. Michael,
it's mostly just chasing value.
I get you. Michael, can you jump back on and talk about your picks after Horn?
Yeah,
Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'll just rip through them. That Clemens guy,
Well, first of all, let's talk about it. You did a lot of trades where you traded up to get higher first round picks by giving up your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks.
Yep, it's unusual. I don't usually do that, hardly at all. But it kind of mirrors the draft that I had in SSFA, where I felt like I was going for it and I was making a lot of trades, not for moving up in the draft, but basically trading a lot of assets to go for the year. And I mean, it got me to the title game, so it worked out. But this one here, actually, Nathan had gotten in touch with me and kind of talked about this and made me realize there's a lot of young people on this team and there's a lot of young talent on this team. And I've got holes to fill, but once you get past the first round, maybe you're lucky and you find people in the 2nd round who could help you this year, but chances are you won't. So we kind of, after I made that move for Jared Goff and got a 1st rounder, we exchanged, I had 1-7 and 118, and then long story short, we made some trades and I wound up getting 1-7, 1-9, and then took the 118 back from Nathan. So I had 3 first rounders and then sat there all the way through the 5th round. So that was unusual for me, but I was happy with what I got the 1st round. I know 2 of them are going to help me right away. And as I mentioned earlier, I really like Horn a great deal. So, the Clemens guy is funny. The guy for the Jets, obviously, Rodgers is the big story in camp, but one of the small little stories was the fact that this guy basically put on 20 pounds between this year and last year, and now he looks like a comic book superhero. but they don't know what to do with him. Unfortunately, he was more of an edge guy. Now they're putting him on the inside line. He's not really faring very well, but I thought he was worth a shot there. The Leal guy, that's another one that's playing behind people with the Steelers, but he had a good draft grade and he had a nice camp, but he's playing behind people. Really just depends. He's going to be a rotational player, and maybe they show him something that he gets to stick around. I kind of like the Munford one. He had a really good camp and had a couple of nice preseason games, and he's playing behind a tackle who I remember this guy's name. It's Jamie, maybe Illuminor, maybe.
Yeah, that's it.
I think he was out of the league I thought he was out of the league, and I guess he bounced back to the Raiders, and somehow he wound up being a starting tackle. But it really was getting down to the stretch to decide which one of those two was going to start. But he had a really nice camp and had good preseason grades, so that could be one of those. He fell to the 7th round. I think he's from Ohio State, and maybe he's a guy that actually comes back and plays. So for 8th round, that's worth it. I've seen several different the rosters and depth charts that list this guy here, the Jake Hansen. He's an undrafted free agent from Illinois that lists him as the starter in Texas, and then some others list Blake Cashman as the starter in Texas. Well, guess what? I've got both of them now on my roster, so maybe one of them are going to start. But, I mean, obviously a low ceiling. And Myjal Sanders is a Canadian, and he was picked in the 3rd round. And everything that I've heard about him is that he's a really good two-way defender, great on the blue line, and also good in faceoffs. So we'll see what he does with him.
Nice. Cool.
And he's also injured right now, isn't he?
Yes, he will start, but it's a hand injury, so maybe he'll be back after 4 games. But I think Tom may have taken basically his twin. They took 2 edge rushers in the 3rd round, maybe Thompson, Chandler Thompson, somebody like that. Yeah,
Cameron Thomas.
Yeah. So
All right,
just lottery tickets. That's all they are.
I like it. I'll run through my draft. I'm not really happy with it. I wanted to get Deion Dawkins with that 2nd round pick. Tom wouldn't trade him to me. So I settled on Damari Mathis.
No, wait a minute.
Sounds like Tom would have traded him to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I would have gave up my 3rd. I needed that 3rd.
You could have made a counter offer. You could have made a counter offer. You
I
blew me out of the water with it. Oh, that's ridiculous.
I really did read it as you were asking for a future 2nd and a 3rd and my pick 1 o'clock.
Well, I mean, so when was that offer sent to you, Dennis? Was that pre-draft or during the draft?
During the draft.
Yeah, I mean, like if you really want to trade a guy, and especially with the draft moving as fast as it was this year, and
I sent an email. before the draft.
Yeah,
we offered my 2nd next year, and Tom said no, thank you. Like not even close. Don't even.
Okay.
No, thank you. No.
I just said no thanks, which did send the message of no interest, which was true. But I knew he had already. But then I was posting Deion Dawkins available in the draft, and then Dennis text messaged me a few pictures.
Right. Usually when somebody's saying, "Hey, this guy's available," in the round that you're picking, and you offer a pick in that round, that would get the deal done. But not in this case. This case is just an opener, so you can add even more stuff to the 2nd round pick.
Well, first of all, I don't think he was available from before the draft. I didn't mean expecting a top 5 for him.
No, you pushed it. You posted during the 2nd round that hey, Dawkins is there. Dawkins is there.
I posted late 1st and I posted early 2nd. You keep saying 2nd round pick. It's the 2nd to last pick of the round.
Well, it's earlier than the last pick.
It's almost, yes, that's right.
That's right.
It's almost the 3rd round, and you misread it, unfortunately. If you had offered me at the time a late 2 and a mid 4, I might have gone for it. I'm not sure. At the time, I was feeling like I wanted one of those players like Treylon Burks.
Okay, so you posted after 218. This is not early 2nd. This is after 218. Jets have offensive left tackle Deion Dawkins and guard Kevin Dotson on the block. And then 4 picks later, I offered it to you. 5 picks later, and that wasn't enough.
Since you're checking the receipts, what pick was the draft up to when I posted that?
You posted at 2-8 right after 218. So 219. So I must.
Yeah, what do you mean? I don't know. That might have been for the other.
I think you're saying 12-18 because 219 here is the 10th round.
2.19.
Oh, it's selection 2.19. I got you. Did I really?
So 2.19. You said I have Dawkins available. And then at 2.23, I made the offer. So
maybe,
it wasn't
I
that.
guess maybe I
Well,
was.
It wasn't very
technically, he said Jets have offensive left tackle 5'7" Deion Dawkins and guard Kevin Dotson on the block.
Yeah, I give you Dotson for that.
I hate to see you guys fight like this.
So back to your pick, Dennis. Tell me a little bit about Damari Mathis.
Dennis said to give it a minute.
Oh, okay. Because there was a couple of there's probably a couple of other cornerbacks I would have taken before him.
That's right, Dennis.
Well, he definitely needed the 4, so that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, there was, for example, Benjamin St. Just would have been available.
You know, I missed him for some reason because I took him to where did I even have him? Well, I still had him behind. I don't know why I missed him in the draft book. I didn't realize he was there for a while.
Well, maybe was he available last year? No, I don't think he.
Didn't he?
I think he. This is his third year in the league, but I don't think he was available last year. I think this is his first year being draftable in SOMIFA.
Who are we talking about?
Damari Mathis.
Zeb is killing you for drafting that.
You didn't like your pick. You're an idiot.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I just was like trying to fill a spot. So forget about Mathis.
No, I was just asking kind of what your thoughts were on him as opposed to some of the other cornerback prospects. I mean, were you taking him mostly because he was a 4?
Yeah, I needed a 4 starting, and I really should have taken Cameron Taylor-Britt, or there was a couple other guys. I did wind up taking Kyler Gordon in the 4th, which is kind of like where Mathis probably should have gone. So,
well, I mean, Gordon was somebody else. I was kind of curious. What do you? That's why I asked about the 4 because I think in terms of pedigree, Gordon would rank higher than Mathis.
Right, but I got him. That's what happens. Those guys with like Tom says, 4th rounds where you get those guys that are zeros or kind of were higher.
Well, Gordon's a 0 though.
Out. Right, I'm fine with a second 0. I mean, I needed 1 4. I needed 1 4. I didn't need 2 4s. I just needed 1 4.
Well, McCurry's a slot corner next year, but he was also available higher draft pedigree. But
who was that?
Roger McCreary,
also available
in Tennessee.
He's not starting on the boundary this year, but he was a 2nd-round pick. But I mean, Mathis, he's starting on the boundary. So.
Yeah.
I actually like Mathis. I didn't have him at like the top of my board or anything, but he looked pretty good when I watched some of his highlights. And he was 4, so I did draft him in another league. I think it was a little later, but I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem. I could definitely see what you were doing, and I wouldn't have felt bad about it.
No, I mean, I just feel like it was over. It was too soon. Kind of like
maybe a little.
Boye Mafe in the 1st round, type too soon. Probably a round off, but. So then I didn't have a 1st round pick, didn't have a 3rd round pick. I got.
Well, and that makes it tougher too when you're working with not a lot of picks to choose from.
Yeah, and Mathis could be okay. I could see him getting a Levi Wallace type of career where he gets some 5s here and there.
Well, I mean, he's definitely going to get the action with Patrick Surtain on the other side.
Right.
By the way, as of at least 40 minutes ago, I think I've been receiving a trade proposal from someone that is here at the draft show.
Yes, I did.
Yep.
Involving one of my 4th round picks. So
I might have a proposal for you, Tom.
I'm all ears.
Well, I don't know if you're trading him. Are you trading your 6th center, Pochich, or whatever the hell his name is?
Oh yeah, I want him too.
Do you?
Let's get a bidding war.
Well, I bet you I'd pay more than Dennis. That's the good news.
Well, that would be hard. That would be hard, Nick.
Yeah, that's not.
Man, I'm getting wrecked here. Let's wrap this show up.
If Dennis, if we talk before the draft, whatever, Poach's talking super deal. What do you have in mind, Anthony?
I'm not sure. I got to look real quick. I just wanted to know if you would actually trade him. So I'll take a look and I could send you an offer.
I'd have to see what the offer was. It's one of those deals where I'm not shopping the guy, but if I'm going to get 2 or 2
I get it.
something,
And I mean, I'm not going to be heartbroken, but I do have a good running team, so it might fit in nicely.
Yeah,
I got a little better than I thought I would out of this for the year.
I'm currently starting a 0-4 center, so you're probably in the same spot, right, Nathan? Something like that.
What's that?
I'm currently starting a 0-4 at center. Who's your current center?
A 4-3.
Okay, so you're a little bit better off than me, maybe.
We can make a three-way deal.
Well, it's because I'm willing to trade though.
Anthony, we can make a three-way deal. You get Pogus, and Dennis gets the 4-3 center.
Oh no, I'm not giving. I like my center long term. Eric McCoy is what I got.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
I like Caleb Huntley. Your pick though, Dennis, for a card.
That's for the card. I had to get
That's a
that for
good
the
one.
card. But I'm going to be like what Zeb was saying earlier, always worried about my carries because I got
No,
Penny.
you'll add another guy. Act like you're not going to. Like when we were talking trade earlier, you're like, oh, I don't know. Russell Wilson doesn't look that good. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like that's who your quarterback's going to be. And literally, like while we're talking, you have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
You
Well,
traded Garoppolo?
Dennis,
That
you
was
did
one of
add
the first
another
round
guy.
pick. Who's that? Oh no, I know that Penny. I already told him. I said I had Penny in the first half,
Oh, there you
first
go.
half, and Huntley in the
Jesus.
second half.
Yeah.
But that's still not enough. You're going to be worried about carries with just two guys that are unlimited, plus with the injuries.
Well, I have 800 carries on my roster, so I don't know anything about it.
Dennis,
That's
you traded for
after
Garoppolo? You
That's
traded
after I
Jimmy G?
traded Gibson.
That was where my first round pick went. So my first round pick
Straight
went
up?
for. Yeah, I gave him a seventh as well.
Okay.
And then I traded my third round next year for Rashad Penny from Michael, and then I drafted Caleb Huntley. So there's the cornerstones of my offensive weapons, probably all 1 year guys starting for me. Well, Penny might be okay long term, but we'll see what he does with the Eagles.
So what's your thought on Logan Hall?
Logan Hall, just another guy that's starting. I needed a defensive end. I mean, what are your thoughts on Hall?
I don't know if he's a defensive end or a defensive tackle. Right? I think he's going to be kind of switching between the two.
Probably
Right.
3-4 defensive end, right? They play 3-4 there, right?
But I like those guys. I'm okay with getting like a 5'3" defensive end once in a while. It doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I hate those guys.
Better than
Well,
what I got now.
Like you say, I don't mind one of them, Dennis. I don't want both of them to be that way.
Right. You do want to have one pass
Right.
rush guy.
As someone mentioned earlier, I wasn't going to say it at the time. They asked me what I was talking about with Nathan, but I've come around. I've come to appreciate pass rush a lot more the last couple of years.
Yes.
So then I got Jonathan Ledbetter, another guy showing up as a starting defensive end. We'll see if he actually is. But I needed help on the front line for sure. So.
With him, I think again, like a 5'3" is probably your best case scenario. I don't see him being a high sack guy.
Yeah, and then
It's weird with Logan Hall. He was a very high NFL draft pick. A 30 run grade as a rookie, like that's really terrible. But you got him like 5th, 6th round, right? Something like that?
fifth round. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Where all the first round picks go to die.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Again, most of this stuff in the later parts of the draft. I picked up Nassib. I really didn't need. I mean, I needed a backup, but he's retired now. Trenton Irwin, he could be an okay like 4th receiver maybe. I don't know. I probably should have taken Naylor there, and then Tanner Muse,
I'm glad you didn't.
team guys. I know.
I think Irwin had a decent.
Well, it was confusing for me with all the backup wide receivers named Trenton in the draft here.
Were there more than one? Who else was named Trenton?
Trent Taylor.
Oh,
then who was the guy from Buffalo?
Sherfield.
Trent Sherfield. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Understood. So, all right. Well, that sounds good. I got to wrap it up here. Any last words, guys, before we?
I might be. Yes. I have a question. First of all, I'm eager to know where Bailey Zapp went in order to win.
Oh, first round, second round, something crazy.
No.
Didn't he?
No.
Third round.
Hold on.
He went.
Has Autumn Wind completed the second half of the draft?
No, they do.
No,
They do after the first game of the season.
He
Okay.
went at 523, so that's
Okay,
pick
yeah.
143 overall.
I was thinking that draft happened maybe before the first round of cuts, so I wasn't sure the timing. But if it had,
I think he got cut right after Paul took him in S28, though. Like,
Yeah, but he's back on the active roster.
Well, is that a good
Yeah.
card? You haven't even looked at it because I think
Yeah,
Paul
but
can use it
under
now.
100 attempts. But yeah, but the thing is, like before they cut him and exposed to the rest of the league, you might have been thinking, oh, he might go with that top one, whatever. But once they cut him and exposed to the rest of the league, they realized, oh, they must not really like him that much. You know.
Well, in S28 though, you can start him at 75 attempts. It used to be
Oh, there you
50,
go.
so I think he can play. I haven't looked at the card. I assume it might be okay.
I might come down out of the front office and coach half the games. I got to speak to Tom Belfry. I got a little bit of energy going there now.
Well, now that you've
All
got
right.
a couple criticisms and you're starting to feel it a little.
Exactly.
Well, you've gone this route before, Tom. What made you want to run the club as a split ownership venture again?
This was not a split ownership venture. This was there was no. This was I didn't want to play the games. I didn't want to play 17 games. I have not been that into Strat the last couple of years. Even SSFA late in the regular season had a really good team, and I was just like dreading scheduling and playing the games. I was just not looking forward to it. I don't whatever. The games didn't appeal to me that much anymore. So I was actually I've been thinking of leaving SOMIFA, but I really didn't want to leave. I've been only for 20 years, and to give it up like that after my experience or to win, it's like I don't want to give it up when I put so much into it. So I thought that I spoke to Ed. I said maybe I get someone to coach my games. I don't have to quit this year. I'll GM and somebody else will coach the games. That'll give me another year to decide if I want to leave or not, right? So that was fine with him if I got somebody that he was okay with. Tom Belfry agreed to play the games, but Tom is really just playing the games for this year. It's not like we're partners,
How so was Tom involved at all in the
No,
making of the draft this year?
no. I think
Okay.
I think Tom and I have emailed 3 times.
Okay. He's been very hands off then.
Well, he's not because he's not the party. He knows. He's just got. I asked him, "Hey, how would you feel about coaching this year?" Because I'm thinking about leaving, but I don't really want to leave. If I GM, I don't think leave. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll play the games." He wanted to play actually. So it's totally.
Did he give you his draft prep from S28?
His what?
His draft prep from S28?
No, I wouldn't. It never crossed my mind to ask him about the draft issues. It was different. It was different when Dennis and I were doing it because, Dennis asked Dennis and I discussed it'd be fun to be partners, right? So we were going to be partners. That this is not a partnership. This is just Tom just coaching the games for this season.
Hired gun. How much are you paying him?
I'm not paying him anything. So, although there could be one of those. Who was the coach with the Dolphins? The guy was paying the guy to lose. It could be what with Flores. He was supposedly offering Flores money to lose.
Oh yeah, Brian Flores.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations. But now I feel like a little motivated. I like being connected to the team, so I'm thinking of seeing how Tom feels about coaching half the game. Maybe I'll coach half and he'll coach half. We'll see.
That's going to make it really hard to update the record of coaching wins and losses.
Well, too bad.
Tom does that anyway, so
You got to come up with some little quirks you want to try out. I mean, if I start getting bored, I start trying things.
Yeah, if I had an outside linebacker who could blitz, I would be happy to be blitzing like crazy. But I don't know. You're talking about playing strat in general. Part of it is the game. Part of it is the game that I did start to feel like it's just kind of limited and repetitive. And also I've been playing a lot of role-playing games, primarily Dungeons and Dragons until a couple months ago, and doing a lot of writing still. I finished my first book 2 years ago. I'm working on my second. And I've been getting really into the fantasy and the role-playing games. And that's like a social game. Like this is like we're having a nice social event here. We're all talking, except for the son of Frankenstein. And it was
Told him to mute himself.
And but like during the season, I mean, Strat, like you play the game, it's not really a social thing. There's a little bit of texting back and forth, but outside of like the draft or doing shows, it's not really social. Like the RPGs, even if you're playing online, the nature of the game, like you play in the voice channel, so you sit there with 5 people, and the nature of the game, you have no choice. You have to talk back and forth the whole time. I don't know if you have any experience with those games, but it's socially stimulating in a way that Strat isn't, and I think
that makes great sense.
Yeah, and it also has me creating, so it dovetails with my writing because if I'm dungeon mastering, I usually only do homebrew, so I'm writing stories and writing content, and all those things are getting worked. So that's part of what's happened, but we'll see because I do feel a little more enthused about. I enjoyed scouting new players this week and knowing who they are. Whereas last year I really didn't know who they were as much. So we'll see what happens. I don't think right now I'm planning on leaving SOMIFA next year. But I mean, anything can happen in 9 months. I left order win for 24 hours. They wouldn't let me back in. So who knows? You know.
I was trying to roll a natural D20 there to see if that would,
That's what was going on.
make me happy to, make it. Me and Nathan will have a roll off D20 to see who gets Ethan Pochich.
I already can tell you who's going to get him. If I want him, I'll get him. I guarantee.
Oh my God!
What do you offer? What are you offering?
I'm just telling you. I'm going to offer better than him if I decide I actually want him.
Well, of course. When Dennis is interested in my players, I almost consider it like a guy not being interested because I figure he's going to lowball me all the way on the price. Dennis and I have made trades, but
Come on.
the best. I didn't have to go there. The best story though is we were doing one of these shows in like July, like before like the cards even came out, the game came out, whatever, and we're talking. I don't know what they were.
What happened? Tom got muted.
Well, what? This
Go
is
ahead,
a story
go ahead.
that you don't.
I was going to pretend I was still
muted
muted.
now.
So I don't know what kind of show we do. It was like July. We do some kind of show. Maybe it was like ratings preview, like after 4th of July, right? We're doing some kind of show, and we're talking, and it was about Travell, and then we're doing the show, and in the draft, then I was like, oh, I need a guard. I couldn't need a guard. I got a guard, Travell Warden. He was like, oh, what do you want? I said, what do you give me for him? He makes me an offer. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, that might be a deal or something like that. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, we're sitting here doing a show for the entire league. Ed's listening. We're agreeing to a trade like 10 days, before, and no one's supposed to do that. And I was like, oh.
Violation.
And then I told Dennis that we both started like laughing almost hysterically. It was pretty funny. I don't know if you remember that, Dennis.
Yeah, and if somebody came up with a better offer, gotta step aside, like the rules say. Zeb's really big on that. Zeb doesn't want people making trades before the trading opens. You were fighting for that, right, Zeb?
Well, I've had a couple times where people have flat out told me in private emails that they've already made a deal and they didn't want to listen to offers.
Jeff Bevier kills me, man. He screwed me twice. Michael, you beat me because of Jeff Bevier, by the way. Jeff Bevier, no, you did a good job, Michael. I'm just saying. Jeff Bevier, he puts like a linebacker. He did this twice in the last 3 or 4 years. Puts a linebacker 6 on the market. Okay, one of the most valuable things in Strat. Gets like a mediocre offer and trades him like within 25 minutes. I like message in the next one. I'm like, hey Jeff, I'm interested in Shaq Leonard. Oh, I've already agreed. I'm like, you had him on the market for 8 hours. You're not even getting a first round pick, and that's the trade you agreed to. I better take this offer instead of waiting like I don't know 2 days. I easily would have given him a better offer. And I was so frustrated because Shaq Leonard was perfect on my team this past year, my SSFA team.
But if he thinks it's a fair offer, then what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong. I'm just saying you should know what you have. You don't go on giving away Deion Dawkins just for 47th overalls. You should know what you have. And, if you got Levante David 4 years ago and Shaq Leonard this year and you put him on the market, you get someone offers you like an early 2, like, oh, I have to take that because that offer is so good. And the offer's going to disappear. Like if I wait a day or two, I would say that's not bad. But I'm going to wait for more offers. He literally had the guy in the market for like definitely less than 12 hours. Right, Michael? Less than 12 hours he was in the market?
Listen, by trade, I am a physician recruiter and therefore an ace negotiator. So I got to him. I got it done.
And Jeff likes to strike fast. I mean, he doesn't like the long, protracted, drawn out agony of negotiation. I mean, I put Marcus Mariota on the market after taking Sam Howell, and I should have just gone to Jeff directly. I kind of didn't think about that, but as soon as I mentioned Mariota, he came right to me.
Yeah,
he did. There was no messing around.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, did you have to take the first offer? Like, what you have?
Well, some people. I think some people don't enjoy that whole process, the whole back and forth process of
haggling,
horse trading.
Yeah, but I understand there's a difference between haggling and like taking the first offer you get, even if it's not a great offer.
Yeah.
So no one should ever take the first offer from you, Tom. They should just
not from Tom. Definitely not.
I make some good offers. Nathan, who has Marshall Lattimore?
That was a quality trade, and I knew that you were the guy. That's the thing is, I look for guys that I think that they actually will value the guy close to what I'm valuing at, and then are willing to actually pay when it comes. Some guys are either. I feel like some people just don't feel comfortable trading. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which I understand. Sometimes I
definitely a
don't.
group
Certain
of
players
those.
I don't feel
Wait
comfortable
on
trading
the-
either. But
Yeah.
Well, hey, I gotta go, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotta wrap this up.
It's been great talking with you.
Sure has.
there's
A lot of fun.
Yeah, good
Bye.
talking. Do you have to close the entire broadcast, Dennis, or are we allowed to mingle a few more minutes?
If you want to, but it won't end the stream until I end it.
Or is this like a North Korean thing?
can't end the stream in the middle of it.
I see. So,
Don't cross streams.
are you allowed to leave the stream running and then check back if we text you and say, "Hey, we're done"?
Yes, I will. I will mute myself and turn the camera off, and you guys keep going.
Oh, you got to turn the camera off. So,
Now
well,
we can trade without Dennis.
that's right. What do you need for Pochik?
So I had a game this year for the first time when I was talking about trying some new things. I had a game for the first time this year. I didn't throw a single pass.
Wow.
Oh God.
And
Okay.
I dominated.
But on a modern rule set or on a win?
Yes, it was a SOMIFA game.
Wow. Who are you coaching against?
I think TJ was playing for Pittsburgh. It wasn't a very good team.
Okay. Who's your quarterback?
Jared Goff. Well, not last year's Jared Goff, not this year.
But the running backs any decent? They're not that good.
They're good.
Okay. I was hoping that they weren't that good and the quarterback was real good.
No, I think it's because I had Henry Ruggs. I think I had maybe Kelsey. I had weapons, and I tend to throw a lot of bombs. So I think he was protecting the bomb a lot, and then I just started running, and I couldn't be stopped. So
You didn't have Rex Grossman.
I had Rex Grossman as a rookie.
No, I mean, you didn't have him in that team. Remember when TJ had Rex Grossman?
Threw a lot of bombs.
That 1 year, and like his only pass play was a bomb. He was running, and throwing bombs. Because he didn't have a good quarterback. The rest of the team was great. So I think he decided the strategy that I'm going to run all the time, but if I throw a pass, it's going to be a bomb because they get good targets.
So in one of my last face-to-face years, I played in Southern California. I had Chad Pennington. One of his good years. You remember him, I'm sure.
Of course.
And I drafted Rex Grossman.
Up until this year, he was the best jet quarterback of the last 25 years. Good.
I drafted that Rex Grossman bomb card as a rookie. It was pretty nasty back then. It was like one of the best ones I had seen. And I actually had a team where I ran like Mo Williams and Kevin Barr. I ran like a wishbone, basically. I had like three
Williams, maybe. I remember him. He was my SOMIFA team, I think.
And then I got into the playoffs and I won a game with Rex Grossman just airing it out over and over. And I ran the other guy out of carries on he had LaDainian, but he didn't have anything else. And he ran out of carries, and it was pretty interesting game.
Look how
Rex Grossman, that's a fond memory for me.
Look how studious and serious Michael looks. Now he looks like a college head coach. Before a couple of years ago, he was all like freewheeling and loose with the long hair. Now he's like he's lost some weight. He's got the hat on. He's got the glasses. He's studying notes as we're talking.
I've missed hearing Tom's voice. I'm just being honest here. Where's he been?
I think he's thinking of his team. He's got to be excited.
Say what?
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's got a good roster again.
You know, maybe I'll be interested in that center. I'm just saying.
You're talking about. You know, Michael. You said Michael's excited, or I'm excited.
I got a pretty good club, Tom.
No, I know you do. Very good.
Who do you got at center, Michael?
Do what now? I got the same thing that Dennis has.
Who you got at center, Michael?
It's
what the hell are you doing?
Wells, Green Bay 04.
Oh yeah, but you got two. But you got Hall. So you got Hall and Swift, and those are your two guys. Do you got any other potential plans?
It's going to be a lot of fun. I like DeAndre Swift's guess wrong card is pretty weird, actually. There's just all sorts of yards on there.
I think Nathan's exploring the potential of a carries issue. Is that right, Nathan?
Or what?
I think you're exploring the possibility of a carries issue.
Yes, I keep telling him you don't want to run out of carries. I mean, he can run Mixon, I guess, but you probably don't want to.
No.
Where does he? I haven't even looked at. I don't know. I think I might have looked at his card once, and I didn't want to look at it again.
What do you get between those two, right? I mean, Hall has almost 100 carries, right? And
Same
Big
as
Swift has about 100 carries, so there's 26
And-
on fatigue.
Well, what you probably want to do, Michael, honestly, to protect yourself, is go get someone like Benny Snell. I think. How many carries does he have? He's got under 50, right?
Yeah, 24.
Yeah. Oh, that's how you want the one like 25.
You want 25 to
20
49.
carries. You want to get a guy that's got a pretty good card that's cheap, which would normally be like a 25 to 50 carry guy,
Mhm.
and especially if they can give you some guest right carries where you don't have to waste your carries on the other guys, especially if they're not that good at it.
Okay.
And if you have a damn injury, you're not screwed automatically in that game.
Mm-hmm. Mixon's card is almost unusable. It's so bad.
Injuries
Yeah.
are fun, Nathan.
What's that?
Injuries are fun.
You know what?
Don't you enjoy using?
I will play whatever the rules are, but don't be mad if I'm like gonna take advantage of stupid injury rules or stupid whatever rule. I'm gonna
Yep.
do what I can do.
I will say I miss playing against your dime defense. I used to enjoy when you did that. Come on, Ed. I used to love it.
I would love to play against my dime defense.
I would run every single play. What's the problem? It's great.
The main thing that irritated me was all the trouble I went through to convert over. That was one of the things that I say I get kind of bored and I try things. And everyone was running 3 wides, and I was like,
I mean, the NFL sometimes will throw a bunch of defensive backs out there. I mean, I don't know, whatever.
No, I don't think no one disagreed that it was not an advantage for me. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an advantage for me.
It was an advantage.
When
I like it situationally. I like a lot of situational stuff. That's why I get excited when I draft like Trey Sermon in 6 leagues or.
I did something maybe before you did it because I wasn't doing it as a season-long strategy, but I think before you started doing it regularly, I played a guy in SOMIFA who only had like 25 unfatigued running carries, and like Tom Brady or something. I'm like, fuck this. I played dime. I had like a good offense. I know it's score some points against him. I played dime. He ran out of carry. He started complaining. I'm like, well, who told you to only have?
You can't complain. It
was a guy that wasn't in the league a long time. I was like, well, who told you like not to draft more carries, bro?
You did it to me when I had McFadden and Flacco back when I had a pretty good SSFA offense. You played a lot of dime, and that made a lot of sense. I mean, you could score. I could score a lot, especially. I mean, that was one of my best offensive years with a Joe Flacco card. Really,
that was a great super. We were both stacked.
Yeah,
we had both great teams, like great running backs and big play receivers. Devin Lloyd had like over 20-yard average in the NFL that year.
Lloyd was nasty that year.
Mm-hmm.
He had over 20-yard NFL average and was maxed out deep. He might have had 7, 8, 9 long games.
I had like 3 or 4 1,000-yard receivers in strat. I never.
Wow.
And one of them was like Darren McFadden. It was Vernon Davis, prime card, Darren McFadden.
Davis.
I had Kenny Britt, and I don't remember the other receiver. The other receiver might have been better than Britt, but Britt was a big play guy.
I had Brandon Lloyd, and the other guy was actually like a good NFL receiver. Like Brandon Lloyd had like a couple of decent years in there. The other guy was more like a regular, like established NFL guy. But I think it's like CJ. That team had Jonathan Stewart when he was good. His first couple years of Jackson had some very good cards. Or Carolina, right?
Yeah, Carolina.
Who was my
DeAngelo
quarterback?
Williams came on right when they drafted him.
Who was my quarterback? Was it Michael Vick?
Michael Vick, who I traded you. The 2 years we made huge trades in SSFA, we both made a championship both years. Well, I guess technically Vic, it was that card. Yeah, it was that same year.
And they were both great Super Bowls.
Yeah.
They were great Super Bowl. And if Flacco didn't get hurt, there's a very good chance he wouldn't the first one.
Well, I mean, it would have been more exciting at the end over whatever the hell it was I had.
I was excited enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Michael needs a drink. He's going to listen to us.
yeah. So Michael's
Who's going to pick up that running back, Michael?
Do what now? I'm sorry.
Who are you going to pick up at running back?
Yeah, I'll look for one.
Don't worry about it, Mike. You're good. Don't help out, Nathan. We've created a monster.
Why can't I help him? You traded with me. I like helping guys that trade with me.
A bunch. Yeah. That was nice, Nate. That's one thing that when you plug your ears, Tom, when you hear this, but when you're kind of working with friends, you kind of can look at each other's rosters and kind of glean. And I mean, you recognize it's like there's no sense in going through another 2, 3, 4 draft. If I've got ones, you might as well go ahead and pick 3 that are going to help you now. So I appreciate it.
Well, I had actually originally talked to TJ about moving back from 9 to 17 or 14, something like that, because he looked stacked, and I thought he might want a receiver. And we had worked out something where we might make a trade on draft day. Like we had a value that we were good with. It's actually really close to what we traded for.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
But then he wanted T.R. Tart later. And then after we made the deal, or when we were making the deal, he said he probably wouldn't be able to do the other deal because he would be left shorthanded. So then I started looking. I was like, I wouldn't mind moving back still. And so I talked to you because your team, made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the extra picks.
What did you get for Tart again? I heard you say. What was it?
214 and a second next year, which his team is really good. He's got Tom Brady. He's got he's got like Josh Jacobs, Tom Brady. He's got a really good roster. Really good defense. Like his teams are really good. Not even weak at linebacker. I think he's got like 5s at outside backer.
That's still a great trade if you're not really going for the year.
What's that?
For you, that's still a great trade if you're not really going for the year.
For me, it's what?
A great trade if you're not going for the year, he said.
Oh, yeah. If I'm not going for the year, well, I like T.R. Tart, and I didn't want to trade because I overpaid for a quarterback already. So that's usually an indicator I'm not doing a rebuild. I paid a future second for Dalton.
Oh.
So, and that's not like some dominant card. It's like a pretty good card. It'll do really well with my offense, I think.
Yeah, but it's like you're trying to compete, make the playoffs, but it's not like all your chips on the table.
I'm not selling out at all.
So that's what I'm saying. Like there's times that you can compete on the cheap, and all right, this is not a season in which I'm really making every move to go for it or a whole bunch.
Oh yeah. No, it made a lot of sense to add picks, and especially nose tackle is a little
overrated. I think.
Well, I don't know that it's overrated. I like nose tackle. I run the 3-4. I want that inside run stuffing ability. I like situational a lot, and that, when people are trying to pound it there, it's because they're trying to get that first down usually, or they're trying to stop me from blitzing the living hell out of them all the time. So there are definitely things that I like to have that nose tackle for, just like I like to have the inside linebackers have a good run rating.
Right.
Some of the time. This year I actually have good pass ratings out of them, but that'll come in handy flooding, when I'm blitzing the whole damn time. So,
what's your free safeties run rating?
I got a 6. So I thought about it.
Yeah. So that's not bad.
No, if you can make the stuff work together, sometimes you get a bunch of good pieces together and they just don't work that well. Sometimes you get 3 or 4 weak spots, but it all works really well anyway, because it's just the way that the system's working out. Like Dalton, I feel like Dalton's going to actually have a really good year for me, or the year I won with Minshew. It's probably going to be pretty close to that, as far as the type of card and the type of offense. So,
Nathan, a lot of times when the ratings will come out, I've seen you do like comparisons from year to year, like there's this many safeties, free safeties, strong safeties got this rating. Now this year for some reason it was like smaller. Sometimes I think you maybe think like I do, like maybe they grade these on like a bell curve for some reason. Like there's going to be a certain amount that's going to be 6s, certain amounts going to be 5s and 4s. But I wondered, did you go through and is it just me or was I just seeing things? It just seemed like the interior line, especially the guards this year, just not a lot of 7s handed out and a whole lot.
I think I posted on that. Center is really down. And in fact, I might have that paper somewhere. Center's really down as far as pass blocking. And then guard is also down. And What's that?
I thought I noticed that that the pass rushing advantage seemed better for the defense this year. I don't know if there were any more sacks in the field, if they're trying to encourage more flat passing somehow again, or I don't know.
I thought it was maybe just to encourage the defense to start like blitzing more and not leaving your guys there. Basically, I mean, like your second linebacker basically is going to be up against the 3, and if he's a 7, you're going to be more encouraged to send him as opposed to sitting it back. I don't know. It just seems to me like there's a lot of 3s, a lot of 4s, not as many 5s.
You're getting. They've done these, interviews with Glenn. He's talked about, there's a certain like number. If they take from this, then if they're adding to this, then they got to take from somewhere else. Like, I feel like the big picture that everything's pretty similar year to year to year, but that certain areas may suffer, from year to year, just like certain running back sets have. He talked about, I think in this interview Dennis just did, about there's all these guest right short gains, and then some years there aren't any. And it's not because they're like, oh, let's just do this, it's just sort of how things are getting spit out. And in the NFL, I mean, there are some teams now that you're seeing that are running a lot more than they used to, especially when you factor in their quarterbacks.
Right.
So like kind of what I'm targeting sometimes with these running backs.
Mm-hmm.
You look at like the offensive line for the Bears, and they ran and ran and ran, and that dude still took 1 million sacks. I mean, it makes total sense that that's just going to be a bunch of zeros on that team.
Right.
And then the Eagles, I mean, didn't they set like a record for sacks this year or something close to it? So like you're getting some teams that are running more, you're getting some teams that are getting a lot of sacks. I don't feel like teams are more so than in the past, 5 to 10 years or whatever, just all of a sudden throwing it way more. I feel like that a lot more teams are trying to run it. So this might just be part of the, the results.
So if there's more running to get more sacks, you either need higher pass rush or lower pass blocking, or both.
Well, to get sacks when you're not guessing pass as much, theoretically.
That's what I'm saying. To compensate for that,
sure,
there's going to be either reduced pass blocking or increased pass rush, or both.
Yeah, and I mean, the split ratings probably, I would assume, to get people to start blitzing their guys. I mean, I love it because it's more matchups, it's more realistic. Like people, you're always going to get screwed on something, or there's always going to be something that's not strong enough for what you'd like to do. But take what you can see and adjust. Take your blocking back and throw short passes to the guy against these zeros. It's awesome. You get your receiver card may not be great, but if it's decent, or even like the halfback we talked about, the guy, Breece Hall that you drafted, he's got like
8-16,
maybe 16 combos or something, but that's reasonable for a guy who's always going to have a 0 on him.
Right.
You're going to get a lot of completions throwing to him. You're going to get more than throwing to like, Cooper Kupp against Sauce Gardner.
You're 6, right?
If you break it all down.
Yeah.
So
you know what? You have to play for a while, and that's. I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's one of those things like you get, especially when you're early on playing this, you can just see the offensive card, right? And you're like, look at that, man! That thing's just. Why would I throw to this guy? There's hardly any chances on it at all. But you don't take into account the guy that's defending him and the percentages of the X reading that's coming up on the D card. You just don't think about it.
And that's not even the best part of it. The best part of it with blocking backs and halfbacks is when you've got your dominant Patrick Mahomes type quarterback, they can't double that guy without using the free safety. They cannot sit there and throw short pat. They can't sit there and double your blocking back and then double someone else. It doesn't work.
Right.
And so if you get you get certain lineups, certain matchups, certain formations, you're really hamstringing what they can do on a consistent basis. And if they can't consistently just shut your quarterback down, well, then you can pass all the time if you need to, but mix that in with runs and it's deadly. They're not in those end run zones if you've got a real good runner, because the guy that's covering him can't ever blitz.
Never move. Right.
Because they want to double him occasionally, or they at least don't want to get burned on a bomb because they got a 0 and they like to double team everywhere else. And so there's 0 men in zone. Like there's just so many little things that
I can't tell you how often Christian McCaffrey gets double teamed for me. It is crazy. Yeah. You would think that he was like Jerry Rice on steroids.
Well, they know his name, and they know he can catch.
Yeah, he gets double teamed. He never gets even like 50 catches for me.
And isn't that great for your receivers when you got a nice quarterback?
It's better for my running game, actually.
Awesome.
The
running game too. They don't blitz those zones. Those zones aren't. I mean, I play guys, and I'm like, I don't care if you run outside, guess wrong. I'm killing you half the time when you run to that zone because I'm blitzing it. you can't call draws out.
Right. Right.
Like if your guy sucks inside or something, it's like,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare.
The draw play is huge. We all
When
know,
you-
like Dennis. I like Dennis. I mean, of course, Dennis is a great coach, of course. Second to none. But when he plays a 3-4, he's very happy to just bring up the one inside linebacker and call pass as often as he can. So like when I play Dennis, I'm running like draw plays on like 1st and 10. Like in the first couple of drives, then he stops doing it as much. But yeah, you and run, and then at the end, ride is usually such a killer. It's like the inside running is kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
And some guys don't adjust. And I mean, there are seasons where I'm like, I seriously like that SOMIFA league. The game after I ran like 68 times or something. The game after that, I thought I was going to break the all-time passing record by throwing short passes to Henry Ruggs against the 0 because his safety was kept back and he was calling run a lot, which I understand. Calling run against that team, it's a really good running team. And I understand why you don't want to have a 0 man in zone because I will throw a lot of bombs, but like, if you don't adjust, he had like 260 yards. I'm just throwing short passes to him. He's got a great guard. And he did adjust. That was actually pretty early on. But, you have to have countermeasures all the time, And that whether that's a guy you can bring in or a formation, or that's on defense, you making the adjustment and saying, I got to risk this because I can't do this all day,
But you're talking about throwing against zeros. In our league, those OLPs will usually be a 4.
Well, last year when I posted on that, I think that was the first year, maybe the second year I had started posting some of the things. I think there was a shortage at corner where there was a fair amount of teams, like not a lot, but maybe a quarter of them to a fifth of them, something like that were starting at 0 at corner. Right. And you factor in so many guys starting 0s at outside linebacker.
I'm still an outside linebacker, not corner. So,
well, no, at corner there was some too last year. This year it seems to be better.
Okay,
but still a 4 is still not great. You still have some good advantages there. If they're not going to double them, I'll take that a lot too. But at outside backer, I mean, you get anyone that can legitimately catch, a fair amount of short passes or go deep with a good quarterback. I mean, you can really stress a defense with those kinds of options.
I wanted Dennis to ask Glenn if what I'm seeing is true, that the interior lines pass blocking has been, if it's intentional, because I just thought it was
way down,
super noticeable this year. But it seems like every time they've asked, it's like, well, is this an adjustment based on the game, or is this like legitimately what you're seeing in the NFL? He always seems to answer. It's always legitimate. It's the NFL. We're not trying to make an adjustment on there. I'm sorry. This almost seems intentional to me.
I want to see if I can find my post where I listed them all. I think it might have been.
But I'll lose connection.
What's that?
I'd look at it, but every time I switch to like another window on my iPad, I'll lose connection. We'll do that double voice thing, and then I'll be done.
No, I'm looking through here because I had posted. There was a, they're always talking about the asterisk. Why does it add up this way and all that stuff.
That was a great post. I really enjoyed that. That was fun.
And that was like a clear example. There's other examples of it. There's been teams over the years, and I never understood it because it can't be a hard rule if there's that many loopholes in it. I don't see it there.
PFF pass blocking does not equate to sacks, of course.
What's that?
PFF pass blocking does
not at all
to sacks, of course. But last year, only 7 guards in the league had a pass block grade of 80 or higher, and only 2 above 83. I don't know how that compares to other seasons, but it doesn't sound terribly high to me.
While he's looking for that, Tom.
Yes.
Walker, the edge rusher for Jacksonville.
Yes.
What do you think of him?
I think he was drafted first last year.
He was.
Well, I don't do the video. I haven't done the video work in a couple of years, Michael. So I don't have like a naked eye opinion on him. I think a lot of people were surprised that he went over Hutchinson in the NFL draft. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. He's supposed to be a great athlete. They went for the athletics over the kind of proven production. I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say I don't have a strong opinion on him either way.
Can I tell you, did you yesterday and Nathan, so our draft show, all right, pre-draft.
Mhm.
So I think 7 or 9, one of the two. I think you guys said, okay, well, Walker looks like he's going to fall to 7 or fall to 9. And I don't think anybody's going to watch this thing all the way to the end, but I was so happy that he was off the board.
Who now?
I
Sorry,
wanted
say
no
that again?
part of that guy.
Oh, Trayvon Walker.
Wanted no part of that guy. Because I think this is one of those situations where people fall in love with numbers, and like he just told us about the pass blocking for guards. All right, so Trayvon Walker, for whatever crazy reason, got a 5 pass defender rating. All right, and I think his pass defense rating was like 45%. Plus, he's an edge rusher.
No. His pass rating, his cover rating was actually good. He had a cover rating of. I had to look at him.
Okay, I found the post that I made. It was a smaller one than the year before.
Okay.
I said the number of 7 pass blockers is almost exactly what it was last year.
All right.
There's a small increase at tackle of 2 and at center by 1. But overall, I'm going to paraphrase here. Overall, it's a big decrease in the number of the rest of the pass blockers, especially 5-rated pass blockers.
Yeah.
So on the tallies, the huge drop came in the 5-rated pass blockers. Tackle had 8 fewer 5 pass blockers and 1 less 4-rated pass blocker.
Wow.
Tackle's down by about 6 guys in that 5 to 4 range. And then guard had 7 fewer pass blockers than last year. Bumped up to 4 more 4s. So actually guard wasn't as bad as I was thinking, but it did have a lot less 5s. 7 fewer. So I guess
your 5s bumped to 4s then probably.
Well, 4 of them, so you're still missing some.
Yeah.
And then center had gained the 1-7, but had huge declines at 5. With 5 blockers for centers were 5s this year, compared with 17 last year. So that's a massive drop off.
That's a massive drop off. I agree. That's just.
And they only had 1 more 4. So if you're thinking they just became 4s, only one of those 12 became a 4.
So they all became 3s.
So basically, there are at least 11 center pass blockers that were at least a 5 last year that were replaced by a 3 or worse.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So pass blocking 3. I mean, you can get that guy easily.
Well, especially at center, they're facing nose tackles or a blitzing linebacker. But that's when even the blitzing linebacker is only on first or second down against the 4-3. So it's not that often. But now you get a good nose tackle. You've got Javon Hargrave. That guy's going to kill.
I know. I thought that was crazy that really, it's like you got to look at almost every team that you're going to be playing at, like that Linebaum or whatever his name is, like the 6-0. Oh, yeah. I mean, you were just going to sit him on your bench, I guess. I mean, maybe you take him out when you're playing a nose tackle that can't rush the passer, and you're playing a 3-4 team or 3-3-5. But if you're playing a 4-3 team, how could you play him?
Well, you have to, when you use a guy like that, you have to use him like that team was probably using him, like how Chicago's using Braxton Jones, where they're running the ball. You know what I mean?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Which that 6 center is so great when it's on the D card and you get those 12s. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's just people know what you're going to do, so it's hard.
Michael, Javon Walker had a 74 coverage grade in 80 snaps of coverage.
Okay, so he's going to be basically Josh Allen's clone on the other side. They're purely going to be edge rushers, and we know how Strat treats edge rushers.
80 coverage, that's not bad for an outside backer.
Josh Allen had that number. He had like an 89 just a couple of seasons ago and 50 coverage snaps, and they gave him a 0.
Well, what was his rating?
89. It was elite.
Huh.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's like I know how they treat him, and if anybody thinks that he's going to be like a Willie Gay or going to be like somebody, a Walker from a couple of years ago, that's not who he's going to be. I guarantee you, next year it'll be a 0 because he'll be doing the exact same thing that Allen's going to do.
Well, sometimes they give those guys 4s or 5s if they're considered really good players, I think. I mean, like there were seasons where T.J. Watt did not have many coverage. Oh, Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones has had seasons where he's had, probably like definitely under 50 coverage snaps, and he's gotten at least a 4 because he was really good that year. And he's Chandler Jones. They're like, oh, let's give him at least a 4. You're not going to give him a 0. So right. I think they do some things on the overall quality of the player sometimes,
Yeah. Well,
perception of it. I don't know.
It is not an exact science picking those guys. That's for sure. That's why I've just decided I'm going to go with a guy. I know what he does. I know I can get him for cheaper, like what I did in this draft. I'm happy with that. And
I don't mind getting a guy who's a big time pass rusher, even if he's going to be a 0, like a 0.5, 12 with an asterisk for 7 or 8 years. I don't mind getting a guy like that.
I don't want to pay a lot for him. Is all.
Would you draft it if there was a guy that looked like a real stud? Would you draft him 16th overall?
I mean, I passed on T.J. Watt at like 12 or 13 or something. I want to say
that was a bad
when I took Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, yeah, in retrospect, I certainly wish I had that back. But I was also transitioning to a 4-3. Sure. 2-3 was a dime. So I don't know.
But I'm just saying in general. In general, if there was a guy you're drafting 15, and he's clearly some guy who went like number 4 in the NFL draft. He had like 8 sacks as a rookie. He's a 0.412 He's 0.412 with a 4 asterisk. And he's supposed to be a stud.
And that's what I expect him to be for forever.
And they're playing a 3-4. He's on the Ravens. Okay.
But basically, you're telling me that's what I should probably expect from him. And what I'm saying is, why would I draft him in the first round if there's other really good players when I can go get for me? That guy is Justin Houston. I just drafted in the 4th round.
I'm James Houston. I was asking if you would draft a guy like that.
Well, I'm thinking I wouldn't because asset management, right?
Well, Bradley Chubb was that guy. Bradley Chubb was that guy in Autumn Wind 5 years ago. He was a 0.512
with 8 asterisk.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, there's one other thing to consider, and that is I don't necessarily want the guy that's going to get 12 to 15 sacks with a 0 rating every year if I can get a guy that's going to give me like 7, 8 sacks because they play better with the safety blitz. The stupid asterisk doesn't screw me over.
Yeah.
So like if I end up with like a 2, a 3, a 4 asterisk, it kind of pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
I know. You get that with guys like Myles Garrett. Last year was asterisk 8. It's an exception.
Oh, I mean, I take it. Yeah, Bosa.
You get the down lineman with asterisk 1 and asterisk 2, asterisk 3, and it hurts you.
Yeah, Hargrave's a 1 this year. It's like, really? That's why I was posting in that Philly thread.
I'll still take those guys, though.
I can literally pull who's their outside backer. There's like a 12-2 or something like that. I'm better off pulling him and putting like Bilal Nichols in there when I'm blitzing against like 2 of the teams they play because I'll get more sacks. So why, if it's a stock,
that asterisk rule has to change.
The rule said, there's not. That's because you're talking about draft leagues. It's not draft leagues. I could name you probably 5 or 6 examples in the last decade that I've just noticed just looking. And I don't play. I played in 1 stock season my entire time playing strat. So I don't really look at them, but I've noticed enough where I'm like, this is dumb.
My strat 2018, J.J. Watt, asterisk, Hargrave, asterisk, Nwasu, whatever that linebacker is from Seattle, Uche. 4 of them.
Another example. New England had that issue too. There were examples of you'd be better off not blitzing your best pass rusher if you're facing off against like 2 of the teams they play because you'll literally have a lower chance at a sack.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
It is.
They need to change the asterisk rule in some way. Like if they can assign it to whoever they want.
Yeah.
Like if you want to say, half of them will go to free safety, half will go to Myles Garrett. That's fine, but you can't like give me a reduced asterisk chance on a sack when I'm
Yeah.
putting the safety, and you can't tell
I'm
me
not
that-
even
you
I'm not
can't
even
tell-
asking for the bump. I'm not saying, hey, add it all together. I'm saying make
Well,
this
they
the
should
minimum.
do something. They should do something. Adding it something when they angle them together, or using the highest number, or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Highest number would be fine.
Or take a bump, give me +2 or something like that. How about that? I mean, if I free safety blitz for every other asterisk I have, you add 2 to the safety. You know
You
what I'm
could
saying?
even if you just did highest number, at least you wouldn't be in these scenarios.
Yeah.
Because if it's based on nothing
Yeah.
but stock leagues where I'm forced to bring in like a 4-4 defensive end and play him in Javon Hargrave's spot if he's like a DT, for instance, and you'll have a higher chance because literally the 4 or the 5 he gets home just as often against these crappy guards or a center as your blitzing as your big time blitzer, Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
And I listed it all in there if you want to look through it. It has
It was
under the
fascinating.
Philly
It was
pass
great.
rush.
Real deep dive. It was super.
And that's not the first example. I mean, I remember there was a Steelers team with Lamar Woodley, James Harrison, and I want to say there was a third guy where
Greg Lloyd maybe was a 2-4 back.
no, that was too long ago. This would have been like I don't know.
Lamar Woodley, James Harrison.
It might have just been those two, but there was a third guy where Larry Foote maybe, or who else was inside? Someone was inside where you're literally better off not blitzing your like James Harrison or something because his asterisk was screwing. Yeah, it might have been Timmons, yeah, something like that. And I had asked about it then, and they were just like, "Oh, this is for star." I'm like, "Yeah, well, this doesn't work here." And then that later, I went and looked it up because I started to get curious, and I was looking because you have to look against who they play against. That's what they do in stock leagues, obviously. And like, yeah, against this team, against this team, against this team, you're literally better off not blitzing this guy. If it's an obvious situation, it's not like a strategy thing, It's like it's a stupid setup.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with the position role stuff, where like because they won't rate the backup lineman properly, and it's like this backup lineman's like never going to get in the game unless you have injuries.
But at least I understand why that is, like in terms of a stock setting. In terms of a stock setting, still doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But Nathan, I don't agree. In a stock setting, it doesn't make sense because like take that lineman Vera Tucker for New York. All right. So he played 5-6 games and looked like he was doing really well. Then he gets hurt. And it's like he just disappears from the planet. You don't see him again. But if you're going to play like a stock league replay and you're going to play with injury, if you're going to play with injuries, then the minute that guy gets bounced, then you're basically going to a straight 0-0 as opposed to when Vera Tucker was in there. At least why wouldn't you, at the very least, why not give Vera Tucker the rating that went to the starter who's like the pseudo starter, basically? At least make him match up with that.
Well, I mean, in stock leagues, they'll play the guys the games they played in. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong on that. I'm against injuries because of how they card backups. I mean, people can talk about depth and all that. There's no such thing. You go in the NFL, you bring a guy in. He may not be good, but he's not non-existent. He doesn't lose every single matchup he's ever in.
Yeah. Your right guard 4-5 is probably not that much better than the 0-0. In terms of in the NFL.
So that's one of the reasons I'm against it. I'm also against it.
Especially 0-0 who like might be a second round pick who then starts the next year. How would he have been this year?
I'm against it for all the situational things. Like I want a situational pass rusher. I may want a situational run stuffer. I definitely have to have a situational running back for short yardage.
I know what Glenn would say about Michael's thing about Michael's pet peeve with guy plays 5 or 6 games against just like he distributed the planet. He would talk about playability. He'd say it's still a game. If it gets too complex, you like lose like the simple game playing aspect of it.
Right. Well,
I'm
not
saying I agree with him, but I know that's what he would say.
Well, because all three of us are talking about draft league, and they care very little about draft league. This game,
but obviously, this example, the asterisk is it definitely applies to stock leagues 100%.
Well, that's why I only talk about things that apply to a stock league. I'm not going to argue about anything that if that's the realm that they make it in, that's the only realm they care about, then that's the only realm I'm going to talk about, because it's
Okay.
the only way I'm going to get anywhere if I want to get something done.
Yeah.
Which, it may or may not. It doesn't seem like they didn't even respond to it, and a lot of people did. So I don't think that they necessarily care, I guess.
I don't know. I just wonder if that's the first time that's ever been brought to their attention. I find
It's
that hard
been
to
brought
believe.
up, but they usually are like, where are the examples? And so I was like, here's some examples, and this season.
Hold on, you put it on the forum or you sent it to them?
It's in the forum.
You should write it up, and you should write it up and send them a letter.
Ask them.
Write it up. They don't read everything on the forum. Write it up and send a letter. Attention, Glenn Guzzo.
Okay, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Sounds like work.
Exactly.
The amount of time I put in figuring all this crap out, though, of course.
But I know that I think a long time ago they're like, if something is like sent to us, like written up, and like we can see exactly what you're talking about, that they're more likely to make a change then than if it's just like.
Well, I was asking the stock league guys too. I'm like, hey, what do you guys do in this situation? Do you just like act like it doesn't exist, or do you just be like, oh, I guess I'm screwing myself by not bringing this guy in? Because I don't play stock leagues. I don't know what kind of weird sense of
Well, as you know, the asterisk rule is supposed to be that you alternate the asterisks. So if you have like I think in like this late '60s Rams, you have some seasons where like Merlin Olsen has got like a low asterisk, and then Deacon Jones is like a 6-12-9 or 6-10-10 or 6-12-10 or 6-12-12. So if you're playing by the rules, then like when the asterisk comes up, you gotta alternate between Merlin.
No, I know that's how it goes, because that's how it goes on the computer. What I'm saying is, do you bring out the specific examples? I think it was like Hassan Reddick, is he an Eagle, and Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
There are at least two teams that they played on their schedule where if you do not bring those guys out and bring in their hack backup and blitz that guy, or just leave the guy on the line, you're literally lowering your chances at a sack against those teams.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And I can't change that rule. Like, even if because I'm talking about computer, so it does it automatically anyway. I was asking, what do you guys do in this situation? Do you actually bring this guy in knowing that it's your better chance, but knowing it's also ridiculous, And they were like, oh, I don't know what's, and then I'm posting the numbers because, apparently you can't look at the pass rush chart yourself. And when I say this guy matches up, like, because, if you put a 4 on a 0, there's a certain point, it's like a 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that, where literally it doesn't matter how much more higher he is. It's an auto. It's the maximum sack number.
Correct.
I didn't even want to get into, because I don't want people freaking out about the dump off stuff, but technically some teams, you're increasing your chances of a dump off by using a safety blitz, which is really weird. I don't want to go down that road, though.
I learned that.
All right, guys.
SFA. I did.
Just give me a second, Michael. I'm going to run, guys. I got stuff to do. It was fun hanging out. I enjoyed it.
It really was. It was so good to hear you again, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing all right.
I'll send you an offer, or maybe Michael will. Maybe all three of us will, for your center.
Yeah,
hot commodity.
I'll be like Jeff Bevier. Whoever makes the first offer,
and take the first offer. That's all right.
Dennis probably already said one, so I guess he wins. Oh, he's back.
I'm
leaving, Dennis.
Stop talking about Dennis. He's back. Wait, hold it.
I did send an offer, but I haven't heard back yet.
Dennis wants to know if I'm receiving the text offers that he's sending me.
No, I'm good. I was just going to shut it down. I heard you guys winding it up.
Dennis?
Well, I was leaving. I don't know if they were. You know, the worst thing you do, Nathan, is offhandedly mention that like you casually like one of Dennis's players that he doesn't really care about. Now all of a sudden the offers come, including that guy, and he thinks you like him, and he's getting jacked up the price. I'm giving Dennis a hard time, but you're a good buddy, Dennis.
Well, that's what
What is that you're in? It looks like you have all kinds of games on the shelves and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
At work, I only make fun of my friends. If some of the other psychos I work with, I steer clear.
Dennis, I played D&D with Dennis and his sons a while back. Dennis, I'm more streamlined now.
Cool. Let's try it again one of these days.
You say that. Are you actually interested in me running D&D? I'm playing Shadow Dark nowadays, much faster and much deadlier.
Would love that, but I would like it like, you know, whenever you have time, like not like a set time. Hey, can you play today? Or usually Saturday afternoons was good for us.
Impromptu.
Yeah, impromptu. That's what I'm looking for.
Perhaps no more than a 3-hour session.
It sounds good. Sounds really good.
A 3-hour cruise.
3-hour tour.
But in Shadow Dark, your characters die easily, so don't get too attached.
Okay.
Gilligan's Island of the game.
Barely old enough for Gilligan's
This is
Island.
my daughter's dog.
Oh.
This is Evie. She's a Bernie
Anyway.
dog.
Oh.
And this is my son's dog. Come here. Come here, pup. Give me a
That's
pup.
good. It's their own dog.
Yeah,
Gee.
let me see. This show's on the dogs. So
Oh.
this
Look
is
at
my
that.
my son's dog. He's a small standard, and this is our dog, which is a multi-breed. So a family dog.
Wow, beautiful.
So we got 3 hounds here. So
Yes, sir.
the show's gone to the dogs. It's time to wrap it up.
That was the highlight of the show.
Pocic means dog in Polish. So just so you know,
Ah,
I just made that up.
I guess that explains it for you.
Okay, guys. Thanks a bunch,
All right,
and
see you guys later.
I will post this.
It's great to see everybody. Y'all take care.
Yep.
See ya.
You too, Michael. Take care, guys. Later.